Chapter 15:20. As the God Emperor of the God race, there were many possible reasons why he'd been completely unaware of the demon's invasion. Most importantly, his subordinates had deliberately suppressed the news so that he wouldn't hear of the demon's invasion. Either that or he didn't care about it at all. If he didn't care, his subordinates naturally wouldn't pay attention to it either. Zhou Wu's expression was somewhat unsightly. The Lightning Emperor had betrayed the God race, but he hadn't known about the demon's invasion. As the God Emperor, this was a grave mistake. The God Emperor was in existence pushed to the pinnacle of power. His mission was to ensure that the God race didn't go extinct. The Southern Kingdom had already fought their way to the borders of the River Styx and was about to enter the God race's territory, yet his subordinates hadn't received any news at all. If not for the demon's holy maiden's arrival and her aura, and Xian Ji's revelation, he might still be in the dark. See. After a moment of silence, Zhou Wu was just about to ask about the specifics when Xian Ji led Yi Zichen and the other Upheaval Alliance members away. When the onlookers learned of the demon's invasion, they were terrified. However, they also noticed that Zhou Wu and Xian Ji's relationship was strange. Quite a few of them recalled the Bai family of Spirit City. Now it seemed the rumors weren't baseless. As he watched Xian Ji and the others leave, Zhou Wu swallowed the words he was about to say. After being ignored like this, his gaze turned especially unfriendly. Their relationship had long since reached a tacit understanding, but Xian Ji had ignored him like this, especially in front of so many clans and factions of Heavenly God City. This made it hard for him to keep his face. God Emperor. The Divine Arbiter he'd dispatched to investigate the situation hurried back. No one knew how she'd received the news so quickly or how she'd obtained it. In short, her return had indeed brought Zhou Wu the news he wanted. The demons and Yao have truly joined forces, but there seems to be some internal strife within the Yao race. They've sent some people to attack the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. The four divine beasts have always been on good terms with the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, so they've already sent reinforcements. How's the situation in the God race's territory? Asked Zhou Wu. The demon race's southern kingdom has already led an army to attack the defense line of the Nether River and are preparing to cross the Nether River. Of the 9 divine mountains, the northern divine mountain and the southern divine mountain were ambushed by demons. The other divine mountains have yet to encounter any Yao or demons, but I'm sure it won't be long before a demon army appears, said the Divine Arbiter sternly. Zhou Wu nodded slightly after receiving the information, but he had yet to come up with a countermeasure. Should we send reinforcements? Probed the Divine Arbiter. Send someone. Zhou Wu's eyes flashed and he sneered. Lao Ai and Xiao Feng don't have a good relationship with me to begin with, so why should I send troops to support them? What about the other divine mountains? The Jade Lake is in cahoots with the Sea of Innocence, and so is the Hermit Emperor. Great Freedom and Supreme Hall have clearly rejected my attempts to rope them in, so why should I send troops to help? The Divine Arbiter's expression froze. She stared at Zhou Wu in shock. Some small conflicts between forces were actually turned into big issues of life and death. Just because of a small quarrel, Zhou Wu didn't care about the lives of the other divine mountains. Tell the factions in Heavenly God City to bide their time. Bide our time. The Divine Arbiter furrowed her brows. The demons are already attacking the god. Are we not going to set up defenses? Also, the entire Yao Southern Kingdom is attacking the River Styx. Are we not going to send troops? Emperor Hades and 5 elements were close friends when they were alive. With that, the Divine Arbiter couldn't say another word. It was obvious that they'd been close friends when they were alive. The God Emperor had usurped the 5 elements planet's fate and ascended to the throne. He'd always viewed Emperor Hades as a thorn in his side, which was why, after Emperor Hades ascended to the throne, he'd sent him to the lower lands to guard the God realm's borders. In truth, in his heart, he'd always hoped for Emperor Hades to die. The Divine Arbiter bit her lip, then lowered her head without a word. Zhou Wu's eyes flashed with sinister malice. He crossed his arms and tapped his forearms. Send people from the God Emperor's estate to continue investigating Shui Tai's whereabouts. Ignore the demon's attack. I trust that the great emperors won't disappoint me. Your subordinate. Understood. Xianji and the others didn't go to the Profound Pavilion. Instead, they went to the Upheaval Alliance's headquarters. When they saw Yi Zichen and the others return safely, they cheered in delight. They'd been paying close attention to the Lightning Emperor's estate, and when they saw the Lightning Emperor emerge with the Lightning Emperor's scepter and black mist, their hearts leapt to their throats. Fortunately, Yi Zichen and the others returned safely. The only thing they found strange was that Yang Jian was among them. The higher-ups of the Upheaval Alliance knew about Yang Jian's betrayal. When he noticed the higher-ups' gazes, Yi Zichen shot Xiao Yumei a meaningful glance and told her to go over and explain. Then, he followed Xianji to the outside's spatial divine artifact. This place is a bit special. This is a divine artifact, sent here from the outside. Not only can you comprehend the laws of heaven and earth here, but time flows differently here, said Yi Zichen. A divine artifact that reverses the flow of time? That's special. For better or worse, Xianji was the head of the Profound Pavilion, and people respectfully called her Lady Providence. She was naturally experienced, so she wasn't as alarmed as Yi Zichen. She simply nodded, then stopped discussing the divine artifact. Instead, she changed the subject to the Yao and demon invasion. Hurry up and accept the great emperor's friends. Yi Zichen was stunned, but under Xianji's gaze, he scratched his head and smiled. Then we have to go out again. After leaving the divine artifact, the first thing Yi Zichen did was accept all of the great emperor's friend requests. Unlike before, when he contacted these great emperors, there was no news from them after he contacted them. It could be seen that these great emperors were also busy dealing with the invasion of the demons. Is the situation that bad? Even if you ask me, I'm not sure, said Xianji. Just now we only talked briefly, but I'm sure the Fox clan and River Styx are in serious trouble. Yi Zichen rubbed his chin. If he contacted the great emperors on his own, it'd be troublesome. Not only would it be troublesome, but it'd also waste time. Every second counted. The attack of the monster race and demon race was too sudden, and the few godly mountains did not set up their defenses well. Only the Nether River had set up their defenses in advance. However, they did not know if they had considered the fact that the entire southern kingdom would be sent to them. Chapter 15:21. Only idealism invited the Ocean Emperor, Lord 7, Lord 3, the Jade Lake Palace Master, the Hermit Emperor, Lady Providence, the Lord of the Big Dipper, the Fox Empress, Emperor Hades, and Su Yun to join the group. When Yi Zichen saw the newly created group, he couldn't help but feel a surge of emotion. If they all coughed at the same time, it was entirely possible that all three races would tremble in fear. More importantly, Yi Zichen was the group's leader. The great emperors have all been invited into the group. If there's any news, you can share it here. Yi Zichen glanced at Xianji, then sent his first message. Only idealism. Greetings to the great emperors. Absolute silence. Yi Zichen scratched his head. He knew that they were busy, so they might not have noticed the messages in the group, so he sent another one. Only idealism. Greetings to the great emperors. Hermit Emperor. Ha 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 ha. Ocean Emperor. Only idealism? Little friend Yi? Only idealism. That's me. Ocean Monarch. It's not easy to add you as a friend. It's been a few hours, and you've finally accepted my request. Yi Zichen sent a mocking emoticon. Only idealism. I was fighting with Xiao Ting just now and wasn't paying attention. I hope the great emperors won't take offense. Hermit Emperor, you fought with the Lightning Emperor's estate? Little friend Yi, you're quite daring. It seems you're returning victorious? Only idealism. Not really. The Holy Maiden of the Nine Li suddenly arrived and took the Lightning Emperor's estate to the demons, So the battle was over. Ocean Emperor. That old geezer really did join forces with the demons. Hermit Emperor. That old geezer's been acting strangely lately. He clearly hates outsiders, but he joined forces with the demons, and the Ninely no less. Back then, the Ninely killed his eldest son. I really don't understand. Only idealism. Join forces? He didn't join forces with the Ninely. He became their dog. Lord Seven, dog? Lord Seven, don't joke around. Xiao Ting is ambitious. Is he the type to submit to others? Only idealism. Greetings to Great Emperor by Lord Seven. Lord Seven, ha ha, greetings to the Emperor Star? I can't stand it. You should greet the Ocean Emperor. Isn't that your father-in-law? When he opened the Star Eye, all the great monarchs were present. Everyone knew about Yi Zichen's relationship with Shui Honghong. They liked to tease him about it. Hermit Emperor, ha 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 ha. Lady Providence, ha 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 ha. Ocean Emperor, cough cough. Only idealism. What did you just say about Xiao Ting being a dog for the Jiuli? Only idealism. He's being controlled by the demon race. Lord Seven. Only idealism. Use the illusory spirit fruit. Lord Seven. There's still phantom fruit? The Ocean Sovereign. The Hermit Emperor. Ocean Monarch. Hermit Tharch, didn't you destroy the illusionary spirit fruit? Why did it appear again? The Hermit Emperor. Who knows? Maybe they've found a way to cultivate them. Lord Seven. This thing can be bred again? Hermit Emperor. Of course. Jade Lake Palace Master. It's so lively here. I'll bring my sister in later. Ding dong. The Jade Lake Palace Master invited the little grandaunt to join the chat group. Although this name seemed a bit odd, Yi Zichen didn't even need to think to know that it was Zhao Qianhe. Little grandaunt. Shui Yang, aren't you embarrassed? You left the mess to me, and you came here to chat with someone. Furious, Ocean Monarch. It's just a bunch of defeated soldiers. Speechless emojis. Jade Lake Palace Master. Little sister, you're leading troops to clear out the demon invaders? Little grandaunt. That's right. Big sister, you have to help me. Shui Yang fled halfway through the battle. Jade Lake Palace Master. Shui Yang, Ocean Monarch. Furious, Ocean Monarch. I died innocently. Lady Providence. All right, let's get down to business. How's the situation on your side? Do you need reinforcements? Ocean Monarch. I'm fine. The demons might have launched a probing attack. Their advance guard didn't even get close to Smokeless City before most of them died. Lord Seven. I'm pretty much the same. They're just small fries. Jade Lake Palace Master. I didn't send anyone. Hermit Emperor. I didn't send anyone either. The great emperors in the chat group explained their situation. Based on their messages, it seemed the situation on the Divine Mountains wasn't particularly urgent. Lord Seven. It seems the ones who didn't say anything. Lord Three. Everyone's here. Lady Providence. How's the situation on your side? How many demons did they send? Do you need reinforcements? Lord Three. Me? No need. You'd never think I'd be here. This is the Saint Palace. We're all lords of the stars, born saints. Even if the demons sent their entire frigid North clan, they wouldn't be able to take us down. Hermit Emperor. It seems the Empress and Emperor Hades are the ones most affected. Jade Lake Palace Master. I spoke with Su Qinyan not long ago. She said the situation over at the Fox clan isn't too bad. The 4 sacred clans have already sent reinforcements. You don't need to worry too much about her. Lord 7. Fox Empress Lord 3. Fox Empress only idealism. Wait, I've invited a few more people. Ding dong. Only idealism also invited the Monkey King, Erlang Shen, Ultimate Charmer, and Invincible Adorable Beauty to join the chat group. Invincible Adorable Beauty. Wow, so many important people. I'm so shy. Invincible Adorable Beauty. Hee hee, I'm afraid the great emperors don't know who I am. I'm Pu Jingwan. Little Grandaunt, and this name. Monkey King. I, old son, am here. Erling Shin, monkey, don't mess around. Yi Zichen invited them into the group, because he couldn't stand their nagging any longer. After Xianji agreed to let them join the group, Yi Zichen added them as well. All of a sudden, the Fox Empress sent out a message in the group chat. Fox Empress. Hermit Emperor, I'm requesting reinforcements. Only idealism. Fox Empress, I'm here to pay my respect. Fox Empress. Fox Empress. I'm your big sister Lure. Fox Empress. Hermit Emperor, the Fox clan situation is dire. She asked me to contact you and ask you to send some doctors from the Hermit Palace. Hermit Emperor, no problem. Only idealism. Big sister Lure, do you need help? Fox Empress, we don't need help. The Dragon and Vermilion Bird clans will arrive soon, and the situation will ease up. Right now we just need some doctors. The Fox Empress also asked me to tell you not to touch anyone from the Divine Mountains. We've captured one alive and got quite a bit of information from him. Fox Empress. They're currently amassing troops to attack the Divine Mountains. Earlier, they were just probing the Divine Mountains' defenses. Lord 7. No wonder so few people came. Ocean Emperor. There's no need to worry about the Sea of Innocence. The demons definitely won't take even half a step inside. Jade Lake Palace Head. Same here. I'm just worried about the Hermit Emperor. We should send some people to him. He's full of doctors, a precious resource in battle. Fox Empress. Yi Zichen, if you're really free, you'd best hurry down the Divine Mountains to the River Styx. Fox Empress. The situation at the River Styx is the most pressing. The Yao Southern nation is warlike to begin with, and their military strength is the strongest of the four nations. Only idealism, all right. Chapter 1522. The River Styx. There was no end to the Southern Yao army. Their eyes shone with a bloodthirsty light as they charged fearlessly into the River Styx. The dark red blood had already dyed the Nether River black and red. A pungent stench filled the land under the Divine Mountain. The cultivators were terrified. This battle had come too suddenly. All they could do was wait on the other side of the River Styx, clench their fists, and pray for the River Styx's soldiers. The attackers' auras were too powerful. They knew full well that if they crossed the River Styx, the cultivators beneath the Divine Mountains would meet their end. You're not allowed to retreat. Su Yun stood in the sky, his eyes bloodshot and his face covered in blood. He looked like a god of slaughter, roaming the southern Yao army. Even though the River Styx had always known that the Yao would attack one day, he'd long since prepared a countermeasure. That was why the southern Yao's surprise attack had failed. However, the number of Yao they'd sent far exceeded Su Yun's or Emperor Hades's expectations. Their defensive formations crumbled several times, and the River Styx's casualties were no less than the southern Yao's. Gradually, the demon beasts of the southern kingdom continued to advance fearlessly, but the fierce beasts in the Nether River were afraid of death. The River Styx's defensive line retreated further and further. The southern Yao hadn't been able to advance even half a meter in 6 hours, but in the space of a single breath, they'd advanced half 100 meters. The southern Yao's morale grew stronger and stronger, but the River Styx's beasts' terror only deepened. All of you, stop right there. When he saw that the defensive line was about to collapse, Su Yun roared, his eyes bloodshot. This was the god race's first and last line of defense. If the River Styx broke through, the lands beneath the Divine Mountains would fall. He couldn't let that happen. Besides, he'd already made a deal with Yi Zichen. So long as he was alive, the Yao could forget about crossing the River Styx into the heart of the god realm. Defend to the death. Don't give me orders. A vicious beast with sharp teeth and a harpoon suddenly appeared among the beasts. We're just lodging in the River Styx. We're only defending for you out of respect for Emperor Hades. This is clearly a death trap, yet you want us to defend to the death? Do you really think we're brainless? He threw the harpoon in his hand to the ground and glared at Su Yun. I'm telling you right now, I'm not guarding anymore. I want to see what you can do to me. Boom. A beam of sword chi blasted in front of the beast, creating a deep pit in the ground in front of its feet. The beast stared blankly for a moment, then tilted its head to look at Suyun. Don't challenge my patience. Take your weapon and stand back. What? If I don't go back, would you still dare to kill me? Do you know who I am? If you dare to touch me, don't even think about living in peace. The ferocious beast sneered, revealing its sharp fangs. With an especially disdainful gaze, it curled its lips and turned its head away. Without even looking back, it walked towards the shore of the river Styx. Many of the other beasts were looking at the situation here. In an instant, all the beasts were stunned. Up in the sky, Suyun had appeared next to the beast at some point. His arm pierced through the beast's body, clutching a blood-red inner core. This Niden was the foundation of these fierce beasts and also their lifetime cultivation. You! The beast glared at Suyun, who held the Niden in his hand. He never would have imagined that this person, who had always been invisible in the river Styx and treated the beasts with utmost caution, would actually dare to attack him. Of course Suyun dared. At a time like this, there was no need for him to fear the slightest thing. As long as the Yao crossed the river Styx in the southern kingdom, the river Styx would cease to exist. How could the river Styx be a threat to him if he couldn't find peace? Because the beast's life force was rather tenacious, he didn't die after pulling out the Niden. With the Niden in Suyun's hand, the beast was no longer as arrogant as before. He smiled sheepishly at Suyun. His eyes were filled with apologetic smiles and a pleading look. Commander-in-Chief Su, I was too impulsive before and didn't think before I spoke. Please forgive me and spare my life. Could you please return the Niden to me? I'm a diviner, after all. This war needs existences of my level. This apologetic smile was a stark contrast to his previous arrogant and despotic demeanor. Looking at the Niden's smiling face, Suyun's eyes flashed with a piercing cold light. It's not like I didn't give you a chance. Now you want to beg for mercy? What were you thinking? Commander-in-Chief Su, you're right. As a diviner, you're very important to this war, said Suyun with a chuckle. The beast smiled and nodded. Then he saw Suyun clench the Niden, his eyes cold. But a disobedient diviner like you might as well not have it. Su, return your soul to the river Styx. Bang. Suyun crushed the Niden in his hand, and the beast's last sliver of life disappeared the moment it was crushed. The beast's power flowed out of the shattered Niden and returned to the void. Before it died, the beast's eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. In the end, it closed its eyes and slowly fell to the ground. On the ground, the beast was indeed at the diviner realm. In this battle, the usefulness of a heaven-tier expert was needless to say. If he survived, he might be able to play a very big role in this battle. However, in the middle of a war, it couldn't be left alive. It was like killing a chicken to warn the monkeys. Suyun wanted to use this beast's death to tell the rest of the beasts, either fight to the death on the battlefield, or die. The beast's blood was still dripping from his right hand. The other beasts were silent out of fear. Suyun looked at the beast in front of him and roared, "Whoever dares to take even half a step back. Whoever dares to take even half a step back, he will end up like you." The beasts were terrified. While they feared being killed by Suyun, they were also filled with unconcealable rage. This was basically roasting them over a fire. In front of them was an endless horde of Yao from the southern kingdom, and behind them was Suyun, who'd already threatened them. Damn it! Do you really think we beasts are easy to bully? If you have the guts, kill us all. To their surprise, Suyun's lightning-fast methods were met with the beasts' frenzied counterattacks. More and more beasts threw down their weapons and retreated to the banks of the river Styx, ignoring the defensive line. Up in the sky, Suyun saw this and couldn't back down. Did he have to kill them all? Putting aside the fact that he didn't have the power to kill all of them at once, even if he did, What would happen to the defensive line in front of the river Styx? As he watched the beasts retreat from the defensive line, Su Yun's eyes were bloodshot. He felt powerless. Chapter 15:23. The pitch-black leopard's head hovered in the sky, devouring all the beasts that got too close to the river Styx. In the blink of an eye, the number of beasts was reduced by a third. The other beasts stopped in their tracks and stared wide-eyed at the black leopard's mouth. Whether they were supremes, diviners, or even a few rulers, they were all sucked into the leopard's mouth. It was a shocking scene. Countless beasts didn't even have a chance to resist before they lost their lives. The remaining beasts weren't stupid enough to charge forward. They all knew that if they took another step forward, they would die. They looked up into the sky and saw the violet-robed Emperor Hades standing right next to Su Yun. The black leopard's head was, no doubt, a divine technique the great emperor had unleashed. "Greetings, Emperor Hades." The beasts that had lost countless of their brethren knelt on the ground. There was no trace of anger in their eyes, only boundless fear for their brethren. The submission of the beasts caused the Yao of the southern kingdom to stop their invasion. Countless beasts looked up into the sky, their eyes filled with undisguised fear. This was the person. He'd single-handedly kept the Yao region outside the river Styx for 10,000 years. For 10,000 years, they hadn't dared to invade. Many of the southern kingdom's commanders' eyes widened. Many of them had suffered at Emperor Hades's hands. They all knew that Emperor Hades. He was second only to the three emperors. Master. As soon as the black leopard appeared, Su Yun knew that Emperor Hades had arrived. However, whether it was the bowing of the beasts or the stopping of the demonic beasts from the southern kingdom, their eyes flashed with fear. The scene was so shocking that he couldn't immediately greet Emperor Ming. After greeting Emperor Hades, Su Yun glanced down at the horde of beasts beneath him. When he sensed their fear of Emperor Hades, he felt his blood boil. The beasts bowed to him, and the three armies trembled in fear. What a shocking scene it was. "You've worked hard. Master, I'm sorry for my incompetence." Su Yun lowered his head. "You've already done very well. The entire Yao nation has mobilized, but you've relied on your mastery of spiritual formations to keep them at bay for several hours. That's already a great success." Emperor Hades comforted him with a smile. Emperor Hades smiled and patted him on the shoulder. "Leave the rest to me. Master, I've already asked for reinforcements in the chat group an hour ago. It shouldn't be long before reinforcements arrive from the Divine Mountains," said Su Yun. Ming Di was taken aback. "That's right, we do need some reinforcements." Emperor Hades gave Su Yun a look, signaling for him to stand behind him. Then, he clasped his hands behind his back and walked up to the fleeing beasts. He looked down at the ground, and none of the beasts dared to raise their heads to look at him. Ming Di didn't say a word. He just looked at them quietly. But kneeling on the ground, they were trembling violently and breathing rapidly. The silent silence made them feel as if their hearts were being squeezed tightly. Humph! A soft snort escaped Emperor Ming's nostrils. The soft snort was like a clap of thunder in the ears of the beasts. It was as if their chests had been hit by a heavy hammer. Sweat flowed uncontrollably from their bodies. "You've disappointed me." Shaking its head, Emperor Hades followed Su Yun to the front of the battle line. The southern kingdom's Yao couldn't help but tremble at the sight of Emperor Hades. However, they weren't as terrified as the river Styx's beasts. Still, they gripped their weapons tightly, not daring to breathe too loudly. "What a formidable force!" Emperor Hades nodded and smiled at the seemingly endless horde of southern Yao, then turned to the sky. "Jiao Hai, you must be here too, right? Ha 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 ha." Suddenly, a burst of wild laughter appeared above the clouds in the void. It was like the roar of a dragon or the roar of a tiger, so loud that it hurt everyone's eardrums. Then, in the clouds was a middle-aged man with a green dragon horn on his head and a forehead covered in scales. He was the king of the southern kingdom, Jiao Hai. He wasn't a pure dragon, but a flood dragon. Emperor Hades, you're still as mighty as ever. Only you could command these beasts to such an extent, said Jiao Hai heroically. You're the only one who can strike fear into the hearts of the southern kingdom's warriors. Emperor Hades, I admire you. Enough with the pleasantries. I've heard too much in my life. I'm sick of it, said Emperor Hades coolly. He looked at Jiao Hai's ferocious aura and said coolly, the southern kingdom has turned out in full force. Jiao Hai, you really do think highly of me, said Emperor Hades coolly. Who in the 3 realms would dare underestimate you, Emperor Hades? Even if those shamans came, they wouldn't dare to slight you, said Jiao Hai. You're right. Emperor Hades smiled and nodded. Oh, that's right. A few months ago, weren't you Yao fighting over whether or not to attack the gods? How come you're in charge now? Hey, not really, said Jiao Hai. We've just split up. Is that so? Since we can't come to an agreement, there's nothing to talk about. They're in charge of unity, so they'll just hide in their own territory. We're in charge of expansion. That's all, said Jiao Hai. But I heard you're attacking the foxes? Emperor Hades furrowed his brows. I don't know about that. They're probably beating up Su Qinyan because of a personal grudge. I don't care about that. All I care about is the god race's territory, laughed Jiao Hai. Emperor Hades, do me a favor? What? Emperor Hades arched his brows. If we keep fighting like this, we'll be harming the southern kingdom's troop. I'll have to attack Heavenly God City in the future. If I waste too many people here, I'll be under a lot of pressure when I attack other cities. Everyone knows you're good friends with the 5 Elements' great emperor. Now that Zhou Wu is in power, why do you have to be his dog? Jiao Hai frowned, his eyes filled with regret. In truth, I respected the 5 Elements' great emperor a lot. Let me go, and I'll kill that heartless bastard for you. How about it? Sure. Emperor Hades smiled and nodded. Jiao Hai didn't take him seriously. He'd been joking just now, and Emperor Hades was obviously joking now. If I let you go, you'll have to do it over my dead body. With just your subordinates and a half-dragon like you, I don't think it'll be possible for you to get past my river Styx. You're right, Emperor Hades. Jiao Hai laughed heartily. He wasn't the slightest bit angry that Emperor Hades called him a half-dragon. Everyone knows that Emperor Hades is second only to the 3 emperors. Some even say that your cultivation has long since surpassed theirs. No matter how arrogant I am, I wouldn't dare face you alone, Emperor Hades. Chapter 1524. In the Battle Preparation Group, after Su Yun sent a request for reinforcements, he didn't say anything unnecessary in the group. The great emperors tagged Emperor Hades's last disciple, but it was as if a rock had sunk into the ocean. They received no further response. Hermit Emperor, Fox Empress, Zhao Ying has already brought 3,000 Grandmaster Doctors and 20,000 high-ranking doctors to the Fox clan. Fox Empress, do you have a token? Hermit Emperor, Zhao Ying has my jade pendant. The other doctors all have the Hermit Palace's jade pendant. Hermit Emperor, we'll pass by the Jade Lake Palace Head on the way. Jade Lake Palace Head, got it. Fox Empress, many thanks for the Hermit Palace's help. The 9-tailed Fox clan will never forget this favor. Hermit Emperor, it's no problem. Fox Empress, the Fox clan is at war, so I can't stay any longer. I wish you all good luck. Farewell. The other great emperors in the group all spoke up and respectfully sent her off. After that, the great emperors turned their attention to the river Styx. Lord 7. Emperor Hades is holding down the fort, yet he sent a request for reinforcements. From this, it's clear how dire his situation is. Lord 3. The Saint Palace can send 300,000 elite soldiers to his aid. Ocean Emperor, no. Jade Lake Palace Head. She already said that the demons are preparing to launch an all-out attack. No one can say for sure how many they'll send. It's best if we don't act rashly. Ocean Emperor, that's right. Besides, we still need to send some troops to the Hermit Palace. Little Grandaunt, What about the river Styx? Lady Providence, go to the profound pavilion. Only idealism, go to the upheaval alliance. At practically the same time, the two of them sent messages. After sending the message, they exchanged glances and laughed. Then, Yi Zichen sent another message. Only idealism, leave the river Styx to me and Auntie Xianji. Only idealism, if we join forces, we'll be no weaker than any of the divine mountains or holy lands. At most, we'll have supremes. We can't compare to the Yao Southern Empire. Only idealism, but I doubt the river Styx lacks people of that level. Ocean Emperor, you're right, Master of the Stars. Ocean Monarch, my main body is in the Nether River Palace, so I know a little about the situation there. What I'm missing is a top-notch combatant like Monkey King Erlingshin. Monkey King. Ha ha ha, old son, love fights the most. Erlingshin. Humph, with this lord here, the river Styx will be fine. Invincible, adorable beauty, why don't you tag me? I'm not any worse than the two of them. Angry. The other great emperors didn't pay much attention to the three of them because they were the type of people who liked to joke around. Yi Zichen completely ignored their words and sent a message in the group. Only idealism. That's settled then. I'll start preparing people now. Leave the river Styx to us. Only idealism. All great emperors should be wary of the demon race. Ocean Monarch, long live. Lord Qi, good night. Third Elder, good night. Jade Lake Palace Master, long live. Only idealism. Contact me in the group if there's a special situation. The moment the message was sent, Yi Zichen left the group. Xianji had already given the profound pavilion's Hubatzi instructions, but Yi Zichen's was much simpler. Yao Ceiling Tower's Sky Demon. All of a sudden, the sky was filled with demon servants from the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Enter the pagoda. The pitch-black Yao Ceiling Pagoda towered into the clouds. Everyone in Heavenly God City could see the Upheaval Alliance's towering pagoda. Countless Yao servants flew into the air and landed inside. After 100 breaths of time, they all entered. At the same time, Xiao Yumei led the rulers and diviners from the outside and the other divine mountains into the pagoda. At that moment, Yi Zichen stepped into the sky and looked at the solemn, battle-ready crowd. Yumei. Xiao Yumei walked over, but Yi Zichen wrapped himself in divine power and released quite a few women and children from the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. These were the survivors he had rescued from the Xiao family with the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. The Upheaval Alliance will take care of them. Take good care of them. You. That's right. Don't go to the river Styx. As soon as Yi Zichen said those words, Xiao Yumei had already guessed he'd do this. She pursed her lips. Although she didn't say anything, it was clear from her eyes that she wanted an explanation. The Upheaval Alliance can't go all out. We need to leave some people behind. But, before Xiao Yumei could speak, Yi Zichen pulled her into his arms and gently kissed her forehead. No one knows the specifics of the river Styx. It's too dangerous. I can't let you go to such a dangerous place. Zichen, are you done yet? At that moment, Xianji had finished giving orders to the profound pavilion. The instant she landed by Yi Zichen's side, they heard the sound of countless blades slicing through the air. It was like a rain of swords. I'm done. Yi Zichen smiled at Xianji, then smiled warmly at Xiao Yumei. I'm off. All of a sudden, Xiao Yumei, who was in his arms, hugged him tightly. Yi Zichen, who was unable to free himself, turned around and saw the reluctance in Xiao Yumei's eyes. You have to come back safe and sound. All right, trust me. I'll definitely come back victorious. Yi Zichen sensed that she wasn't going to let go of him in the slightest. He resisted the urge to cry, then forcefully let go of her. He looked away, no longer looking in her direction, and roared at the rulers, diviners, and supremes in the sky. Let's go. The Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion had joined forces. Over 10 million cultivators surged forward like a raging river, blotting out the sky above Heavenly God City. The cultivators of Heavenly God City, who just emerged from Xiao Ting's dark clouds, jerked their heads up as the sky darkened. Countless cultivators were shocked by this scene, but soon, some of them came to a realization. Those people should be from the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion. If I'm not mistaken, they're heading to the front lines. Are they going to defend against the invasion of the Yaoan demons? It was no secret that Yaoan demons were invading the God realm. The cultivators of Heavenly God City had heard about it, either from the Lightning Emperor's incident or from their friends on the other divine mountains. Now, the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion were mobilizing to defend the God realm's territory. On the other hand, the Lightning Emperor's residents had not shown any signs of activity. Quite a few cultivators snickered, but even more were awed by the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion's river-like formation. Good night. Countless cultivators placed their hands on their chests and prayed for the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion cultivators. The tens of thousands of cultivators who'd remained in the Upheaval Alliance felt the same way. Their eyes shone as they watched Long River leave. Among them, Xiao Yumei's eyes were filled with tears as she bit her lips. She wanted to fight the enemy together with Yi Zichen. She wanted to stay by his side, but now all he could do was put his hands on her chest. Chapter 1525. The River Styx. As soon as he stepped foot into the sky, demonic energy instantly enveloped the area. The newcomer was clad in dark blue armor that covered his entire body. It was a striking sight to behold. The purple devil chi revolved around it, taking it as its master. So it's you. Emperor Hades' eyes flickered as he stared at the man shrouded in black mist. Su Yun furrowed his brows. He could sense the man's surging aura, but he didn't know who he was. Judging by the demonic energy around him, he was obviously an expert of the demon race. We haven't seen each other in at least 10,000 years. The man in the black mist grinned. It's been 10,000 years. We haven't seen each other since you joined forces with the God Emperor to deal with Wuxing, causing him serious injuries. Emperor Hades's expression was calm. But I'm rather surprised that you're here. I thought you'd go with your subordinates to attack the foxes, or perhaps just bring people to take Zhou Wu's head. Zhou Wu's head has come to me. You are always so unexpected, Demon Emperor. The Demon Emperor. When Emperor Hades revealed the newcomer's identity, the Yao of the Southern Kingdom and the beasts of the River Styx were all horrified. Naturally, they'd never seen Emperor Hades before. Their ranks weren't high enough. Su Yun stared in shock at the man shrouded in black mist. It was Kuei Lin, the Demon Emperor. Emperor Hades had been given the title of number 1 under the 3 emperors. This was a testament to his strength. Su Yun wouldn't have been worried if he'd fought Jiao Hai. But the Demon Emperor had come. He was one of the 3 emperors. The Demon Emperor is here. It seems I can't just stand by and watch. The waters of the river Styx surged, and a huge wave surged into the sky. Shui Yang's true body was standing atop the waves. His aura was no weaker than anyone else's, and the sea god's trident glowed with golden light. Ocean Emperor. Kuei Lin cupped his hands in greeting. It's bad enough that the Yao of the Southern Kingdom attacked the river Styx, but you came all the way here. It's not too much for me to help, is it? Laughed the Ocean Emperor. Naturally. Kuei Lin nodded. Then, please. Shui Yang, the Sea Emperor, raised his hand and pointed into the sky. When great emperors of their level fought, the shock waves from their collisions alone were enough to obliterate any body-tempering cultivator below the diviner level. He pointed at the void so that the fight between them wouldn't interfere with the fight below. Kuei Lin, fully aware of her intentions, smiled and nodded. After the Ocean Empress flew into the sky, Demon Emperor Kuei Lin and King Jiao Hai followed. Master. Seeing the worry in Su Yun's eyes, Emperor Hades patted him on the shoulder. There's no need to worry. Shui Yang's true body is here. If we fight them, we might not necessarily lose. I'll leave everything here to you. Don't let them cross the river Styx. Do you understand? Your disciple understands. Chuckling softly, Mingdi's gaze sharpened as he turned around. With his arms behind his back, he stepped into the air. Su Yun remained in the air. He narrowed his eyes and looked down at the raring Yao on the ground. His face was ashen. Kill. Auntie Xianji, where the hell did you open the door to? Yi Zichen looked around at the barren wasteland. He couldn't quite get his bearings, so he stopped in midair and stared. From the divine mountains to the lower lands, one had to pass through a spatial tunnel. The God Realm's own tunnels couldn't easily support so many cultivators, so Xianji and the Profound Pavilion's divine generals had joined forces to open a tunnel to the lower lands. This was where the tunnel would land. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing but wasteland. There were far too many places like this in the lower land. Even though Yi Zichen had lived there before, it was hard to tell where he was. If even he was like this, the other cultivators of the Upheaval Alliance didn't need to be mentioned. Most of the Upheaval Alliance's members were born and raised on the Divine Mountains. How many years have you lived in the lower lands? You don't even know that? Xianji curled her lips. We're only an hour away from the river Styx. How could I have opened up a tunnel in the wrong place? Then why didn't you just land in the river Styx? Yi Zichen was flabbergasted. Yi Zichen felt as if he'd been hit in the head. His eyes widened, and he saw Xianji glaring at him disdainfully. Land in the river Styx? Don't you know that the river Styx is fighting right now? With so many people fighting, how can the space stabilize? It seems to me that you're tired of living, aren't you? If you run into spatial turbulence along the way, you won't even know how you died. Just say it. Why did you hit me? Muttered Yi Zichen. What did you just say? I didn't quite hear you. Can you repeat it? Xianji glared at him. She looked like a gangster boss. Yi Zichen simply smiled sheepishly and nodded, but he didn't dare repeat what he'd just said. When they saw this, Yang Jian and the great sage couldn't stop laughing. Hey, only Lady Providence could do this to Yi Zi. Hehehe. The two of them laughed on the side without a care in the world. However, Yi Zichen gave them a look, causing them to instantly stop talking. This time, it was Pu Jingwan's turn to laugh without a care in the world. Ha ha, look at you two. The atmosphere had clearly been tense before the battle, but now, thanks to these three buffoons, it wasn't so tense anymore. At that moment, the stench of blood wafted through the air and entered their noses. The smell of blood instantly brought the festive atmosphere back to normal. Xianji and Yi Zichen glanced at each other, then followed the scent of blood and rushed toward the river Styx. Enter the formation. There were simply too many Yao. Even though each of the river Styx's vicious beasts could fight against 100, they were still outnumbered by the entire southern empire. Although Su Yun was Emperor Hades's disciple, he'd never taught him any battle technique. All of his techniques came from the spiritual formations he'd comprehended himself. The formation rose. The vicious beasts started walking toward the center of the formation. How could the Yao, who'd already suffered at the hands of formations, let him have his way? The instant Su Yun set up the 5 elements 8 trigrams formation, the Yao went berserk and slaughtered the vicious beasts that tried to enter. For a moment, the river Styx's vicious beasts couldn't even take half a step into the formation. At the same time, the Yao of the Southern Empire charged forward in a frenzy. It looked like they were about to reach the banks of the river Styx. Creak. Up in the sky, Su Yun gnashed his teeth. He looked at the relentless onslaught of Yao, as well as the river Styx's vicious beasts, who'd already used 120% of their strength. It seems that's all I can do. Suddenly, Su Yun bit down hard on his lip, causing an enormous spiritual formation to appear in the sky. This formation. Chapter 1526. Azure light slowly spread across the ground like starlight. The enormous spirit diagram covered almost a third of the battlefield, and inside the spirit diagram were 8 things that looked like dragons and snake. This diagram was one of the 3 great vicious formations. 8-level soul locking. Once a spirit formation was set up, the diagram would completely seal and absorb the souls of all living beings within it. After refining them into the purest form of divine power, it would pass through the parent diagram, the 8-level soul-boosting formation, and infuse it into a person's body, causing their cultivation to skyrocket without suffering any backlash. This was because the person who set up the formation was skilled in the 8-level soul-boosting formation. The 8-level soul-boosting formation was the parent formation of the 8-level soul-locking formation. It was much more difficult to master this formation than the 8-level soul-locking formation. Anyone who could master the 8-level dual formations had to be at least a formation grandmaster. Even in the entire God, Yao, and Demon clans, there were only a few grandmasters in array formations. The Yao generals of the Southern Kingdom didn't believe that Su Yun could set up an 8-level soul-boosting formation, but a simple 8-level soul-locking formation was enough to make them feel uneasy. Stop him. The Yao general's eyes were bloodshot. Once the 8-level soul-locking formation was used, even Yao generals would find it difficult to break free, much less ordinary supreme-level Yao. Hearing that this was the 8-level soul-locking formation, the Yao beasts of the Southern Kingdom were also bloodshot. Ignoring the vicious beasts around them, they all charged at Su Yun. "We can't let them pass," shouted the commanders of the vicious beasts. Even though they were vicious beasts, they'd long since developed intelligence at their level. They were no different from ordinary people. They could see that the Yao commanders were afraid of the spirit diagram in the sky. Some of them had heard of the 8-level soul-locking formation and knew its effect. But things had already gotten to this point, and Emperor Hades' attitude was clear. Retreat meant death. Fighting against the beasts before them, which were 1,000 times stronger than them, would still result in death. Even if Su Yun's 8-level soul-locking formation devoured their souls, they didn't care. Since they were going to die anyway, they might as well drag a few more Yao down with them. The ferocious beast and the Yao clashed again. No matter how hard the Yao fought, it couldn't affect Su Yun's inscription of the formation in the slightest. The divine power at the tip of his finger was like a wisp of golden thread that lingered around the formation diagram, perfecting the 8 extremities soul lock. The commanders among the demonic beasts were also enraged. However, even if they were to attack, the commanders among the ferocious beasts would stop them. At that moment, Su Yun suddenly stopped at the last stroke of the 8-level soul-locking formation. "Looks like he's also afraid of the backlash." The demonic beast commander couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Before they could relax, a brand new spirit diagram suddenly appeared in the sky. Golden lines and silver paths, 9 dragons bowing to him. 8 extremities spirit ascension. In that instant, the demon race commander was dumbfounded. To be able to draw the 8 extreme double formation at the same time meant that he was already at the level of a formation grandmaster. Looking at the way he drew it, it was obvious that this was not his first time drawing these 2 formation diagrams. "Do you want to die?" The Yao commander-in-chief roared angrily. Naturally, they weren't yelling because they were worried about Su Yun's life or death. They were afraid. Afraid that once the formation appeared, they, the commander-in-chief, would perish. He was clearly Emperor Hades's final disciple. Why was it that he didn't know any of Hades's secret techniques? Yet, he was a grandmaster of formations, and one who knew how to draw the 8 extremities dual formation? They couldn't figure it out. "Die." Su Yun shook his head and laughed as he continued to draw the formation. The Yao commander-in-chief naturally wasn't trying to scare him. They were telling the truth. Generally speaking, the 8 extremities dual formation was considered an evil formation. The 8-level soul-locking formation devoured souls, refined divine power, and then used the 8-level spirit-raising formation to redirect the divine power. Naturally, this method of raising one's cultivation wasn't accepted by the laws. The more souls he devoured, the greater the backlash he would receive. Those in the spirit-raising formation couldn't withstand the backlash, so naturally, those in the soul-locking formation had to. Based on the size of the formation, the amount of souls devoured meant that even great emperors wouldn't be able to withstand the backlash. Furthermore, Suiyun's aura hadn't even touched a ruler's. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the spirit-locking formation's backlash could instantly kill him. As a formation grandmaster, there was no way Suiyun didn't know about this. However, he'd still chosen to set up the formation. That meant that he'd already prepared himself for the backlash. As for who he'd set up the spirit-raising formation for, only Emperor Hades and Emperor Hades remained on the battlefield. The Ocean Emperor had clearly invited them up in the sky to fight, but even now, Emperor Hades, the Ocean Emperor, Kuei Lin, and Jiao Hai hadn't shown any signs of fighting. They were like bystanders, watching the battle between the demonic beasts and the ferocious beasts from the void above. Emperor Hades has never accepted a disciple in his life, but this time he's accepted a good seedling. The instant the Eight Extremities dual formation appeared, Kuei Lin couldn't help but sigh. Formation masters were rare talents in the God, Yao, and demon races. They didn't need a high cultivation. All they needed was to be able to set up formations. Through them, they could greatly increase the power of an army. As a result, formation masters had always been fought over by the God, Yao, and demon races. However, most of the formation masters of the God race ended up in the hands of the Supreme Hall. As a result, formation masters were even rarer than before. The fact that Suiyun could set up the Eight Extremities dual formation meant he was already a grandmaster. A novice formation master was already highly sought after, but a grandmaster. Even the Demon Emperor wouldn't be able to resist extending an olive branch to him. At the grandmaster level, they could create their own formations. No one could estimate the value of a grandmaster's creation in the future. Take the current leader of the Supreme Hall for example. He was someone that even the God, Yao, and demon emperors had to be careful around. Not bad, I guess. Emperor Hades was always so calm. Even in the face of the demon emperor's praise, his face didn't betray any emotion. Or rather, in his heart, Kuei Lin's praise was nothing at all. King Jiao Hai of the Southern Kingdom, on the other hand, wore a grave expression. Those below were his soldiers. If the Eight Extremities soul-locking formation succeeded, his nation's power would plummet. Emperor Hades is always so serious. The Demon Emperor couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. This disciple of yours began by locking his soul in order to ascend his spirit. His ascension target must be you, Emperor Hades, but you're still so calm. I'm impressed. But the Demon Emperor suddenly changed the topic. After sealing his soul, this disciple of yours will die. This is your only closed-door disciple. Don't you feel heartache for him? Chapter 15:27. The Demon Emperor froze. When he saw Emperor Hades' sneer, he couldn't help but smile. The Demon Emperor withdrew his gaze from Suiyun and shook his head with a bitter smile. What happened between you and me is already old. It's been tens of thousands of years, yet you still remember it. Suddenly, Jiao Hai and the Ocean Emperor of the Sea of Innocence turned to look at the two great emperors. From their conversation, it seemed they'd overheard a secret they'd never heard of. His last disciple? Was the Demon Emperor once Emperor Hades' last disciple? I didn't want to bring it up, but you just had to bring it up, so I had to remind you. Kuei Lin, before you became a demon general, who exactly did you study under? As expected, the Demon Emperor really was Emperor Hades' last disciple. It was clear from their conversation that he'd been Emperor Hades' last disciple before he'd become famous. However, the Ocean Emperor and the others hadn't known about this at all. If Emperor Hades hadn't told them, they might never have found out. The Demon Emperor had once been Emperor Hades' last disciple. Fine. Before I became famous, I did study under you, but at the time, I wanted to become Emperor Hades' disciple. How could Master accept someone like you as a disciple? Emperor Hades' eyes flashed with disdain, and his gaze darkened. Master has long seen that you are ambitious and evil. That's why he didn't accept you as a disciple. I pitied you and wanted to learn divine abilities, so I hid it from Master and accepted you as my disciple. I wanted to fulfill Emperor Hades's wish. Jiao Hai and Shuiyang's pupils constricted. It was no wonder they hadn't heard about this. When Emperor Hades was still alive, they'd been mere supreme-level nobodies. Indeed, Emperor Hades had always been an evergreen tree in the upper three realms. Even if the Hermit Emperor and the others didn't count, most of the current Emperor-level experts had watched him grow up. When they were all diviners and supremes, Emperor Hades had already been famous and domineering. Even though they appeared to be on equal footing now, they were still far from Mingdi's in terms of seniority. This was also why Emperor Hades could address the other great emperors by their names, while the other great emperors had to address him respectfully as Emperor Hades. While Jiao Hai and Shuiyang were still in shock, Emperor Hades muttered self-deprecatingly. After Master found out, he reminded me that I couldn't teach him everything. I stubbornly insisted on doing things my own way, but Master was right. You? Forget it, I can't be bothered to talk about such old matters. Let me ask you, you were the one who leaked the news that my cultivation method would have a period of decline, right? So what if I am, and so what if I'm not? The Demon Emperor asked. Respect the teacher. A teacher for a day is a father for a lifetime. None of that mattered to Kuei Lin. Old Underworld Emperor had seen through him very clearly. He was an ambitious person who could give up everything to achieve his goal. To him, Ming-Di was merely a stepping stone to the Demon Emperor's throne. So what if he'd learned from him in the past? He was now the high and mighty Demon Emperor, while Emperor Hades had been banished from the Divine Mountain by the God Emperor to guard the border between the Yao and God races. The strongest person below the three emperors. Kuei Lin was one of them. They were no longer existences on the same level, so there was nothing much to say about these trivial matters. If Emperor Hades was willing to reminisce, he would accompany him. But the past was the past. He was no longer a disciple of Emperor Hades, and he would never call him Master again. Of course it's to clean up the mess. Emperor Hades's gaze was gentle. You have to clean up after yourself for the sins you've committed. What a joke. The Demon Emperor's eyes were filled with ridicule. This emperor is a majestic demon emperor. How can you deal with me so easily? Could it be that you're relying on that disciple's octagonal spirit ascension? Hurry up and take a look. I'm afraid that your disciple will die soon. There's no need for you to worry about your junior brother. But before that, this emperor has something to ask. The old demon emperor didn't die, right? If he suddenly came back, would you still be able to sit on your position as the demon emperor? Ming-Di narrowed his eyes and chuckled. The demon emperor's eyes widened. You scared? Laughed Emperor Hades. Humph. The demon emperor instantly gathered his thoughts and snorted. There's no point in talking. Let's do it. On the main battlefield, Sui Yun was already more than 90% done with the octagonal spirit formation. The Yao commanders were like ants in a frying pan. They watched as the two formations became more and more complete. They couldn't wait any longer. Even though the beast commanders were doing their best to stop Sui Yun, the Yao commanders were no longer on the defensive. Even if they let the swords pierce through their bodies, they had to stop Sui Yun. When he sensed that someone was coming for him, Sui Yun frowned. He made no attempt to dodge. Instead, he focused all of his attention on the almost complete twin formations. Stop! The Yao commander thrust his halberd forward. Sui Yun raised his eyebrows, shrugged his shoulder, and moved out of the way. The halberd pierced through his left shoulder, causing blood to drip down. But he didn't stop. The beast commander slashed at the Yao commander's back. The latter didn't resist at all. Instead, he thrust his halberd at Sui Yun's right arm. There was no way to dodge. The Demon King Commander-in-Chief's attack was infused with the power of the Tao of heaven and earth. As soon as he attacked, his halberd locked down the surrounding space. Su Yun could only watch as the halberd pierced through his right shoulder. He'd lost both of his shoulders. Su Yun could no longer use his brush. The Yao of the South cheered, but at that moment, 8th-level soul locking complete. An indistinct murmur reached the Yao's ears like a nightmare. Only then did they realize that Su Yun really had lost both arms. However, he was still holding the brush in his mouth, which had been infused with divine power. He'd finished the last stroke of the formation. Not only that, but he'd also completed the formation's patterns. The Yao commander despaired. He'd used all his strength to cripple Su Yun's arms, but now... At the same time, the beast commander punched a hole through the demon commander's chest. The demon commander's eyes were filled with indignation as he stared at the two dazzling arrays in the sky. Was the South going to lose? His vision blurred. Before he died, the Yao commander stared at the two formations in the sky. He couldn't help but think of his wife and daughter, who were in the army. 8th-level dual formations. Chapter 1528. Everything was just as Xianji said. They really were close to the river Styx. In less than a quarter of an hour, Yi Zichen and the others could already see the edge of the river. However, the closer they got, the thicker the stench of blood became. The cultivators in the cities around the river Styx were all terrified. Many of the rarely seen immortal kings below the divine mountains were shocked. When they flew over and saw the confrontation at the river Styx, they were so frightened that their legs trembled. Immortal kings were lofty existences in the lower lands, but the aura emanating from the river Styx. It was 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times stronger than immortal kings like them. Only experts who'd broken through to the immortal king level and surpassed supremes could do this. These experts were fighting at the mouth of the river Styx. Based on their auras, it was obvious they were Yao. When they considered the ambiguous relationship between the three races, the immortal kings understood. The great battle had begun. The battlefield between the two realms was now in the lower lands territory. The river Styx was their final line of defense. Breaking through it would mean the lower lands' annihilation. Boom! Boom! An ear-piercing explosion reverberated through the sky. In the blink of an eye, countless surging auras appeared in the sky above the cities. The cultivators in the surrounding cities couldn't help but look up. The instant they did, they saw a dense mass of people blotting out the sky. As far as the eye could see, they couldn't see the end of it. However, their auras... Gods! Someone suddenly shouted. When the other cultivators heard this, their eyes lit up with excitement, as if they'd just survived a calamity. Gods, the experts of the divine mountains are here to save us. The cultivators in the lower lands raised their arms and cheered. Above them, Yi Zichen had just put his phone back into his pocket. The Hermit Emperor said he sent 300,000 doctors. That many? Pu Jingwan couldn't help but arch her brows. Even when they'd rushed to the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's aid, the Hermit Emperor had sent no more than 30,000 doctors. That's not that many. The great sage suddenly wrinkled his nose. The smell of blood here is even more pungent than it was back at the Bai family. Demons had a keen sense of smell. Ordinary people could only smell the pungent smell of blood, but they couldn't tell the difference between this place and the Bai family. But now, the great sage said that the smell of blood was even stronger than the Bai family's. Everyone exclaimed in admiration. With this comparison, they had a direct understanding of the situation at the river Styx. The battle of the Bai family resulted in millions of corpses and rivers of blood. The entire spirit city was filled with the nauseating stench of blood, and even the void was dyed red. Now, the great sage was saying that the stench of blood near the river Styx was even stronger than it had been at the Bai clan. After all, they weren't even at the river Styx yet. They were only in the surrounding cities. Even so, the great sage still dared to say such words. It was hard to imagine how terrible the situation in the Netherworld River was. He sent 300,000 doctors as reinforcement. It seems the Hermit Emperor also knows that the river Styx is the main battlefield, murmured Xianji. Yang Jian, the profound pavilion's divine generals, and the outsider rulers all nodded in agreement. Only Yi Zichen's expression was solemn. He'd lost contact with Su Yun after he'd suddenly asked for help in the group chat. When he'd arrived at the foot of the divine mountains and smelled the stench of blood, his furrowed brows hadn't relaxed. He was worried about the situation at the river Styx, and even more worried about Su Yun's safety. In the lower realms, Su Yun had willingly served as a spy for the Demon Emperor. When they'd faced Black Dragon, he'd even sacrificed himself to set up the 8 extreme dual formations. Fortunately, after they'd reached God Realm territory, Emperor Hades had fished him out of the River of Time, and the two of them had reunited. He was terrified that Su Yun would leave him again during this campaign. If that really happened, he didn't know how to face Su Yan in the future. Yi Zi, Yang Jian and the others sensed Yi Zichen's solemn expression. They looked at him deeply, then sighed. Hey, that should be the river Styx up ahead. I didn't expect there to be a formation master here, said the great sage, who'd activated his fiery eyes of truth. Beside him, Yang Jian opened the third eye on his forehead. It really is a formation master. Yi Zichen furrowed his brows, but his heart suddenly shrank. Su Yun was a formation master. He knew that. Most of the creatures that lived in the river Styx were ferocious beasts. They weren't sentient to begin with, and even if they did, they couldn't study spirit diagrams. The diagrams that had appeared in the river Styx were undoubtedly Su Yun's doing. This meant that he was still alive. What formation diagram? Asked Xianji. Let me take a look. Yi Zichen raised his hand to his eyes. Just as the great sage was about to take a closer look, Yang Jian described the diagram. There are 2 great formations. One seems to have a serpent. The second formation is the kowtow of the 9 dragons. Suddenly Yi Zichen trembled. Even in death, he'd never forget these 2 formations. He gritted his teeth, then shot toward the river Styx like an unsheathed blade. At that moment, Xianji's brows furrowed. 8 extreme dual formations. The demon race's commander fell heavily to the ground, causing the blood river on the ground to splash up. The other demon commanders were also shrouded in mist. Looking at the 8-level soul-locking array above their heads, they felt as though an insurmountable mountain was pressing down on them. Retreat. He retreated continuously. The 8 extreme soul lock had been completed, and all souls under the formation would be sucked in. Even though they were the leaders of the demonic beasts, they had to put their own lives first when it came to matters of life and death. Scared? Su Yun sneered. His cultivation level wasn't high. Even with Emperor Hades' careful guidance and the help of medicinal pills, he was only at the peak of the diviner realm. However, his attainments in spiritual formations were enough to make so many sovereigns cower in fear. He laughed heartily as he stood under the 8-level soul-locking grand array, watching the demonic beasts receding like the receding tide. It's too late to be afraid now. What made the demonic beasts despair was that the octane soul lock that had already enveloped a large area was still expanding the area of his spirit map. The demonic beasts were almost forced into a dead end by this spirit map. Die. Rather than wait for death, they might as well fight to the death. Several of the Yao commanders simultaneously threw caution to the wind and attacked Su Yun. The vicious beast commanders rushed forward to stop them. However, at that moment, a streak of black light, 100 times faster than them, flashed by. It was so fast that no one noticed when it appeared or how it attacked. It wasn't until several demon clan commanders were sliced in half at the waist and their blood spurted out like a fountain, splashing onto the black light, that everyone saw that the black light was actually a person, and his entire body was stained with the blood of the demon clan commanders. Chapter 1530. Yi Zichen didn't need to make any further arrangements. The upheaval alliance quickly split into several large groups. With the outsider rulers at the lead and diviners as support, they led the Sky Supreme-level Upheaval Alliance members and slaughtered their way into the Southern Kingdom's Yao army. Boom! At this moment, a pitch-black iron tower suddenly descended from the void. The black tower towered into the clouds. Several doors opened from the tower, and countless demon servants flew out from the tower. These Yao servants were even more organized than the Upheaval Alliance's members. They worked together seamlessly, without the slightest hint of disorder. Compared to the Yao of the Southern Kingdom, both Yi Zichen's Upheaval Alliance and the Yao servants in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda were like a regular army. The difference between the two was like a clash between a regular army and a ragtag army. Perhaps it was because Yi Zichen and the others had appeared so suddenly that the Yao Southern Kingdom couldn't react in time. As a result, the Yao and beasts of the Southern Kingdom suffered especially heavy casualties in the short term. Yi Zi, I'm going too. Even before arriving at the river Styx, the great sage had been rubbing his palms in anticipation. After arriving at the God Realm, he'd never had a chance to truly enjoy fighting. Last time, at the Bai family's estate, it had been a good opportunity, but he'd run into Bai Haoyu. Now that he'd returned to the river Styx, he hadn't heard of any simians in the Southern Kingdom. He could bully the lesser Yao as he pleased. Even if he ran into the simians, he'd at most refrain from hitting them. I'm going too. The monkey doesn't know how to hold back. I'll keep an eye on him. Yang Jian and Pu Jingwan fell into the Southern Kingdom's army. They were already emperor-level experts, strong enough to stand toe-to-toe with the likes of the Southern Kingdom's king. Naturally, they were like tigers among a flock of sheep. Even though they were the commanders of the demon beasts, the ruler of the outer realm was enough to give them headaches. Now that the great sage and the others had entered, they could only watch helplessly as they charged right through the Southern Kingdom's army, completely scattering their formation. All of you, go down as well. Compared to the Upheaval Alliance's vast army, the Profound Pavilion hadn't sent that many people, but they were all elites. For a moment, the Southern Kingdom clearly had the advantage in numbers, but after the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion entered the fray, they fell into a disadvantageous position. The Upheaval Alliance is quite well behaved. Xianji crossed her arms and walked over. She shook her head as she looked down at the demon army that had been completely scattered. The current situation could not be said to be a guaranteed victory, but if the demonic race still wanted to cross the Netherworld River, they could only retreat and make a comeback. It's all thanks to Yume. After the Upheaval Alliance was established, Yi Zichen didn't stick around for long. Xiao Yume had always been in charge. Never mind the ordinary members of the alliance, Yi Zichen didn't even recognize the rulers and diviners who'd joined later. When Xiao Yume was mentioned, Xianji couldn't help but smile and nod. Her evaluation of Xiao Yume had always been very high. Out of all the fated stars she knew, she was the one she was most satisfied with. Looking up into the sky, Xianji inexplicably laughed. The battle up there is also very intense. Before coming here, Yi Zichen sensed several powerful auras fighting in the sky. He was sure of two of them, Emperor Hades and the Sea Emperor. As for the other two, who's up there? The king of the southern nation, Jiao Hai, and the demon emperor. Xianji smiled. Suddenly Yi Zichen's heart trembled. The king of the southern nation was one thing, but Emperor Hades was second only to the three emperors, and he had the Sea Emperor by his side. The Demon Emperor. He was one of the three emperors. If he wasn't mistaken, someone of his level should be in control of the demons. Now that he'd appeared in the river Styx. Don't you need help? No need. Xianji looked up into the sky and smiled calmly. The one who sensed Kuei Lin's aura wasn't his true body. There's no way he and Jiao Hai are a match for Emperor Hades and Shuiyang. Let me give you a hint. Even if the Demon Emperor's true body arrived, as long as Emperor Hades isn't in a weakened state, he'll have a hard time beating him. What are you saying? Yi Zichen frowned. Didn't you say Emperor Hades was second only to the three emperors? That's just nonsense from those with insufficient cultivation. They think the three emperors are the strongest, so they say Emperor Hades is second only to them. If you ask Qin Yan and the others, they'll give you the same answer. Who's stronger, Emperor Hades or the three emperors? Xian Ji's eyes flashed with disdain for those who spouted nonsense. Emperor Hades is evergreen. We haven't even made a name for ourselves, yet he's already been crowned emperor. I'm not sure if Emperor Dongguang can defeat Emperor Hades, but Kuei Lin. There's no way he can. He was raised by Emperor Hades himself. Raised? Yi Zichen froze. You don't know, do you? Xian Ji's eyes gleamed with pride. These are all secrets of the three realms, but your aunt, I, am the Lady Providence who can peer into the mysteries of heaven. If we talk about how much I know, if I say I'm second, no one would dare say they're first. Is that something to be proud of? When he saw Xian Ji's smug expression, Yi Zichen couldn't help but feel somewhat speechless. But when she said Kuei Lin had been raised by Emperor Hades himself, his heart was in turmoil. He couldn't help but look up into the sky just like Xian Ji, his heart filled with astonishment. High above the clouds, the impact of the clash between four emperors was unimaginable. There was a deafening rumble. The flow of time around the four great emperors was no longer stable. In the blink of an eye, the great emperors had exchanged tens of thousands of blows. It was impossible to see their movements clearly. All they could see was that they didn't use any fancy battle techniques, just the most primitive and direct clash of strength. Boom! An ear-piercing boom filled the sky, and the four great emperors suddenly split apart. Emperor Hades's eyes were as calm as ever. The Ocean Emperor gripped his trident, which was covered in bloody wounds. That blood was Jiao Hai's. In the middle of the battle, Jiao Hai had transformed into a flood dragon. Countless scales on his body had been knocked off, and fresh blood flowed down his abdomen. When they separated, he was in human form. His chest and abdomen were riddled with wounds of varying sizes. Demon Emperor Kuei Lin wasn't in as bad a state as Jiao Hai. When they separated, he imitated Emperor Hades and stood with his hands behind his back. However, cough! Suddenly, Kuei Lin coughed violently. He covered his mouth with his right hand, and when he opened his palm, they saw a pool of purplish-red blood. He couldn't deny that he'd lost to Emperor Hades. He'd left Emperor Hades's tutelage to become the Demon Emperor, the Emperor of the Demons. Being Emperor Hades was a stain on his record, and he'd never publicly announced his relationship with Emperor Hades. In fact, he'd gone so far as to seal the mouths of everyone who knew. But Emperor Hades was still a thorn in his side. He'd come to the river Styx to see who was stronger between him and Emperor Hades. He'd already seen the results. Although he'd only sent one of his avatars, he'd already made up his mind. Do you still want to fight? In contrast to the Demon Emperor's reluctance, Emperor Hades was much calmer. He smiled at Jiao Hai and Kuei Lin, then glanced down at the battlefield below. If we keep fighting, I'm afraid the entire Southern Empire will be destroyed. Jiao Hai snorted angrily. He naturally knew that the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion had joined the fray, but Emperor Hades and the Ocean Emperor wouldn't let him interfere. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. I'll let you go. To everyone's surprise, Emperor Hades suddenly said something like this. I'll give you a chance to regroup. When the time comes. Kuei Lin, I hope you'll use your true body to come find me. That way, I can clean up after you. Heh. Chapter 1531. Ever since Kuei Lin ascended to the Demon Emperor's throne, no one had ever dared speak to him like that. Scram! That one word was like a painful slap to his face. Kuei Lin nodded solemnly, but didn't say a single word. In his opinion, at this point, it would be even more humiliating for him to say such insignificant and vicious words. There was nothing else to say. See you on the battlefield in the future. He waved his right hand and a door appeared in the sky. The demon emperor stepped through it. The king of the Southern Empire's expression shifted. Even the demon emperor had left without a word. Heavily injured, he couldn't possibly fight this invasion. Emperor Hades, Scram! Emperor Hades suddenly turned around. His roar was infused with his understanding of the Tao of the heavens and earth. Jiao Hai's heart trembled. He couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He swallowed his vicious words, gnashed his teeth, and descended from the sky without so much as a backward glance. The demon beasts of the southern kingdom also retreated like a receding tide. The great sage watched the fleeing demon beasts of the southern kingdom, as if he hadn't had enough of them yet. Why did they all run? Yang Jian raised his lance and stopped. The other members of the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion didn't chase after them either. Don't chase a cornered enemy. No one knew whether or not they'd run into an ambush. Besides, they'd come here to help Styx out of trouble, not to slaughter the Southern Empire to the last man. After the Yao retreated, the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion's members sat on the ground, recovering from their injuries, or cleaning up the corpses. Yi Zichen led Yang Jian and the others up into the sky, only to discover that Emperor Hades's expression was as cold as ever. His posture hadn't changed in the slightest. "Emperor Hades, are you waiting for us to comment on your style?" said Xian Ji half-jokingly. Shui Yang, the Sea Emperor, patted Emperor Hades on the shoulder. He had to admit, just now, Emperor Hades's cold expression and his furious shout at the Demon Emperor and Southern Emperor to scram was truly cool. He could have just left them here, but he'd let them go. He'd even said he'd give the Southern Empire a chance to regroup and send the Demon Emperor's avatar back. Next time, he'd come back with his true body. This aura! What a show-off! Even the Ocean Larch couldn't help but grumble in her heart. In terms of acting cool, she was far inferior to Emperor Hades. That's enough. We all know you're very cool. Don't change your style here. The moment the Ocean Thearcha's hand touched Mingdi's shoulder, the smile on his face disappeared. Placing both hands on Mingdi's shoulders, he channeled his divine power into his palms and patted his organs several times. Mingdi spat out a mouthful of blood and his black hair instantly turned into silver strands. The youthful Emperor Hades had turned into an old man at the end of his lifespan. His face was lined with wrinkles and his eyes were lifeless. His arms were trembling violently. Emperor Hades! This scene caused the people in the sky to panic. Xianji furrowed her brows as she clutched Mingdi's arm. Only then did she realize that Mingdi's pulse was very weak, so weak that she could barely feel it. It was as if he was on the verge of death. A period of decline? Emperor Hades' cultivation technique would cause him to enter a period of decline. This was known to all three realms. However, Emperor Hades had just recovered from his decline not long ago. How long had it been since he'd entered a period of decline again? This was happening far too frequently. I was so afraid. I was so afraid that Kuei Lin wouldn't give up and would keep fighting with me. The wizened Emperor Hades smiled shakily, his voice weak and feeble. The Ocean Larch supported him with all her might. Only then did she understand. Why had Emperor Hades, who'd threatened to wipe out his sect, suddenly let them go after gaining the upper hand? At first, the Ocean Larch had thought that Emperor Hades was trying to slap them in the face and embarrass them. That was why he'd said those things. Now it seemed that he'd sensed the onset of his decline during the fight. That was why he'd said those arrogant words to make them leave with a grudge. How fortunate! Emperor Hades couldn't help but sigh. The Ocean Larch, who was supporting him, frowned. "You've been entering a period of decline more and more frequently lately. Is there something wrong with your cultivation technique?" In response to the Ocean Thearcha's question, Emperor Hades glanced at her, his eyes flashing meaningfully. "Fine, if you want to keep it a secret, then keep it a secret. I can't be bothered to know." The Ocean Larch snorted, then dove back into the river Styx. Emperor Hades' eyes remained calm as he turned to Yi Zichen and the others. I'll have to trouble you outside the river Styx. The river Styx's savage beasts will cooperate with you. Leave it to us. Yi Zichen and Xian Ji nodded simultaneously. Thank you. Emperor Hades nodded in thanks, then waved at Su Yun. Yun, help me back to the palace. The weakened Emperor Hades left through the void, but Yi Zichen and the others frowned deeply. Emperor Hades had entered a period of decline once more. Who knew how long it would take for the demons and Yao to break out of their decline? The Southern Empire's retreat didn't mean that the river Styx would return to peace. Rather, it was even more dangerous. They could sense the Yao and demons' determination to invade the god realm. This time, the Southern Empire had retreated. Next time, they might even lead the Eastern and Western Empires to attack the river Styx at the same time. When that happened, they'd have to face the combined forces of three nations. Without Emperor Hades as a deterrent, how long could the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion hold out? This was also an unknown factor. Kuei Lin had retreated back to the demons. Once he did, he'd undoubtedly gather all the demons he could muster and launch an all-out assault on the God Realm's Divine Mountains. There was no way the Divine Mountains had the spare manpower to spare. In truth, the situation wasn't all that optimistic. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The cultivators of the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion, who were in the middle of cleaning up the battlefield, felt their hearts tremble. Yi Zichen and the others descended from the sky and saw a group of people dressed in doctors' robes rushing toward the river Styx. At their head was a scholarly, middle-aged man. Alliance head Yi. You're from the Hermit Palace, right? Asked Yi Zichen. That's right. The Hermit Emperor ordered us to rush here to help. The middle-aged man nodded. Yi Zichen smiled. You came just in time. The Southern Empire's Yao just retreated, and we need your help. In that case, we can talk about this later. Saving people is more important. Thank you for your trouble. The Hermit Palace's doctors all landed on the ground and began treating the wounded. Those who weren't particularly badly injured stood guard. Meanwhile, within Emperor Hades' secondary palace, Su Yun helped Emperor Hades to his throne. He was worried about his master, who was in a state of decline. However, he'd followed Emperor Hades for so long that he knew there were some things he shouldn't ask, and couldn't ask. Master, rest well. I'm on my way. Wait a moment, Yun. I have something to tell you. Chapter 1532. The battlefield was cleaned up. First, Yi Zichen had cut down a demon commander. Then, experts from the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion suddenly rushed to their aid. The Southern Yao had been utterly routed. Most of the corpses on the ground belonged to Yao beasts. Almost no one from the Upheaval Alliance or Profound Pavilion died. Most were injured. The Yao servants of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda were the most comfortable. If they could fight, they could fight. Few of the demon servants in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda were injured, whether they were Devas, Sky Supremes, or even Earth Supremes. The Hermit Palace's doctors methodically treated the wounded. As far as the eye could see, the banks of the river Styx glowed green. I'm rich, I'm rich. The happiest of them all was Pu Jingwan. She held a glass bottle in her hand. No one knew what kind of divine ability it was, but she could capture the souls of the dead, then seal them inside. Her eyes lit up, and she looked like a money grubber. Son, haven't had enough yet. The great sage scratched his head in annoyance. He'd only swung the Rui Jingu Bang a few times before the Southern Yao retreated in defeat. Not to mention him, even his monkeys were complaining that they weren't satisfied with the fight. It was only after he persuaded them to take back their monkey hairs that they had been blown out. Monkey, how many did you kill? Yang Jian suddenly scooted over. When the great sage saw his expression, he couldn't help but frown. What are you doing? I've killed more than I can count. I'll keep that in mind. Yang Jian grinned. You've killed 13 diviners and above, but not a single ruler. You've killed about 4,000 supremes. You counted my monkeys too? The great sage arched his brows. I counted them all, said Yang Jian. Then you. Hey, I killed 16 diviners and about 8,000 supremes. That's slightly better. I'm really sorry. Just look at Yang Jian's shameless expression. He was asking for a beating. The great sage hadn't had much fun to begin with. He glared at him, then pulled out the Rui Jingu bang he'd hidden in his ear. You're itching for a beating, my grandson. He brandished the Rui Jingu bang and fought Yang Jian again. Even Xian Ji didn't find it strange that these two brothers were fighting so strange. He calmly watched them fly into the sky. Not long after, he withdrew his gaze and looked at the nearby Netherworld River with a heavy heart. Aunt, what are you doing? Yi Zichen couldn't help but ask when he saw her expression. It's nothing. As she spoke, she retracted her gaze. I'm just a little worried for the eternal Emperor of the Underworld. How so? It's not that Emperor Hades's cultivation arts have never gone through a period of decline, but it's always happened once every 1,000 years. It's very regular. Recently, the Evergreen Emperor's decline has become more frequent. In my opinion, this is not a good sign. Xian Ji's brows furrowed. You're saying that Emperor Hades? Yi Zichen's heart trembled, but Xian Ji hadn't said a word about it. She wielded a god-bestowed artifact, the compass of fate. Prying into the secrets of the heavens was her specialty. She boasted that she knew the most gossip, and it was definitely not a boast. It was not difficult for her to know secrets that others did not know. Emperor Hades's death had always been a mystery to the god realm. There were all kinds of rumors, but Xian Ji knew that Emperor Hades had reached the end of his lifespan. No one would believe her. At the ruler level, one's lifespan was comparable to that of the heavens and the earth. So long as they didn't encounter a catastrophe or suffer a backlash while comprehending the laws of the heavens and the earth, it was almost impossible for rulers to die. Xian Ji had once thought the same, which was why she couldn't restrain her curiosity. She'd once used the compass of fate to pry into Emperor Hades's death. His death meant he'd reached the end of his lifespan. This might have something to do with Emperor Hades's cultivation art. When Emperor Hades was alive, even if the Yao and Demon Emperors joined forces, they still wouldn't be his match. At the time, Emperor Hades was the strongest of the three races. But he disappeared so suddenly. Then one day, he disappeared from everyone's sight. When Emperor Hades' secondary palace opened, the former Emperor Hades's last disciple, the current Emperor Hades, had inherited his position. Before Emperor Hades's death, he'd been just like the current Emperor Hades. He'd repeatedly entered a period of decline, then used his own strength to break free, and then again. However, Emperor Hades had lived for millions of years, while the current Emperor Hades had lived for less than 100,000 years. Logically speaking, when Emperor Hades died, he should have perfected his cultivation art and passed it on to the current Emperor Hades. The perfected art should have extended their lifespans, but the current Emperor Hades. This was not a good sign. Xian Ji knew too much, but she couldn't share it with anyone else. This was all karma. After peeking into the heavenly secrets countless times, she'd already been tainted with far too much karma. There were some things she could only bury in her heart. She could only frown and look at the river Styx. Her heart was filled with worry, but she said nothing. Emperor Hades's words reverberated through the empty palace. Su Yun, who was standing in the hall, was inexplicably stunned. He had a bad premonition, and it was pretty bad. So bad that he didn't want to think about it any further. He stiffly turned to Emperor Hades and shook his head. Your disciple doesn't know. You don't know, or you don't want to say. Emperor Hades smiled at Su Yun, then beckoned him over. Come to master. Su Yun walked over without a word. At that moment, Emperor Hades lifted his withered hand and gently patted Su Yun on the head. Ever since I took you in as my disciple, I've never taught you any of Emperor Hades's secret arts. Have you ever hated me? No. Su Yun shook his head. But I'm telling the truth, said Emperor Hades. Su Yun nodded solemnly, then jerked his head up. Master, you can walk out of this period of decline again, right? I was blind once, but this time I've seen the right person. Emperor Hades's eyes were filled with joy, and he seemed to be reminiscing. How wonderful! Master's legacy can finally be passed on. Master! This time, I won't be able to walk out of my decline. Su Yun stood before Emperor Hades and instantly froze. He looked up in disbelief, only to see that in the blink of an eye, Emperor Hades had shrunk to the point where he looked like a skeleton. In truth, you already knew this was going to happen, didn't you? Master! You were close friends with the Emperor Star, and I was close friends with Wu Xing. Not being able to help him become the God Emperor is one of my greatest regret. Fortunately, that child Yi Zichen inherited Wu Xing's legacy and will. You help him ascend to the throne on my behalf. Consider it fulfilling one of my greatest wishes. Chapter 1533. Emperor Hades's words completely froze Su Yun's face. His jaw dropped and his eyes widened in shock as he stared at the skeletal old man. How vast was the world! Who didn't want Emperor Hades's imperial title? Emperor Hades. That was a title that could intimidate all the races of the three realms. It was a title that made all races bow to it and the gods tremble. Now, Emperor Hades was telling him that in the future, he would be Emperor Hades. Su Yun didn't know what virtue or ability he possessed to shoulder such a weighty imperial title. Master! Yun, don't let me down. Ding! A bony finger gently tapped Su Yun's forehead. Blinding violet light burst forth from within the palace. The entire nether river boiled, and the purplish-green light in the palace pierced through the nether river, enveloping the entire sky. Countless beasts were repelled. Even Shui Yang, the Sea Emperor, was expelled from the void. River Styx. The beasts on the banks of the river. The gods of the divine mountains. The cultivators of every city beneath the divine mountains. The Yao of the south, fleeing in disarray. Anyone who lived in the three realms of God, Yao, and demon could see the dazzling violet light emanating from the netherworld river. Xianji, Shuiyang, Yi Zichen, and the others stared intently at it. What's going on with the river Styx? Countless people had the same thought. Even Shui Yang, the Sea Emperor, stared at the river in bewilderment. Among the crowd, only Xianji silently lowered her head and gently placed her hand on her chest. Ding dong! Ding dong! Ding dong! Everyone around Yi Zichen received a notification at the same time. They took out their phones and saw that the battle preparation group was in an uproar. Jade Lake Palace Head. I can see what's going on with the river Styx. Seventh Lord, I can see it too. Third Lord, me too. Fox Empress, the Fox clan can see it too. What's going on with the river Styx? Ocean Emperor, Fox Empress, have you resolved the Fox clan's crisis? Fox Empress, now that the vermilion birds and dragons have arrived, the demon's advance guard will find it difficult to pose any threat to the Fox clan. Fox Empress, even so, the demon's retreat was rather abrupt. Fox Empress, I was worried there might be an ambush along the way, so I didn't send anyone after them. Hermit Emperor, it's good that the Fox clan's crisis has been resolved. Fox Clan Empress, Hermit Emperor, it's fortunate that you sent a doctor over. Otherwise, the Fox clan's vitality would have been greatly damaged by the Demon clan's attack. Hermit Emperor, it's a small matter. From the messages in the group chat, it was clear that Yi Zichen and the others weren't the only ones who could see the river Styx's situation. Even the Divine Mountains and the Yao Foxes could see it. These great emperors had all come for the river Styx. However, even Yi Zichen was confused by the specifics. Lord of the Big Dipper, only idealism, Zichen, are you hurt? While the other great emperors were concerned about the river Styx, Yi Rong was naturally only worried about Yi Zichen. She couldn't be bothered to care about Mingi. All she cared about was Yi Zichen's safety. Idealism, I'm fine. Jade Lake Palace Master. Only idealism, what's going on with the river Styx? How come we all saw it on the Divine Mountain? Little Grandaunt. Erlang Shen, the Monkey King, is invincible and adorable. Who can come out and explain? Invincible, adorable beauty, me? I don't know. Erlang Shen, ditto. Monkey King, ditto. Lord 7, how come none of you know? Didn't you already reach the river Styx? Are the Yao and the southern nations still there? No. If you don't even know, what are we supposed to do? Only idealism. The Yao have already retreated, but we really don't know what's going on with the river Styx. Only idealism. Just now, Emperor Hades beat back the demon emperor and the king of the southern nation and entered a period of decline. Not long after, the river Styx became like this. Lord 7, the demon emperor? Lord 3, a period of decline? Jade Lake Palace Master, 1 against 2? The great emperors were all focused on different things, so Yi Zichen didn't know who to reply to. Jade Lake Palace Master. Ocean Emperor, why did you go to the river Styx? Emperor Hades could already fight 2 on his own. Ocean Emperor. Actually, I helped out a bit too. Bitter laugh, bitter laugh. Jade Lake Palace Master. A bit? That means you didn't do much? Hurry up and discuss this with Emperor Hades. All you have to do is leave a clone on the northern Divine Mountain. Ocean Emperor, we've already agreed. How can we discuss this? Little Grandaunt. Ocean Emperor, haven't you been staying at Emperor Hades' palace all this time? Don't you know what's going on with the river Styx? Ocean Emperor, just like the Emperor's star, I don't know anything. Jade Lake Palace Master, what use are you? Furious, Ocean Emperor, sheepish smile. Lord 7, you two are divorced. Stop flirting. Only idealism. The demon emperor went to the river Styx? Only idealism. Yes. Lord 7. Emperor Hades beat up Kuei Lin and Jiao Hai all by himself? Ocean Emperor. Me too. Only idealism. Ocean Emperor also played a part, but the demon emperor and Jiao Hai really did retreat after fighting Emperor Hades. Lord 7. As expected of Emperor Hades, eternal youth. Great Emperor Bian sighed deeply. He'd been given the title of second only to the 3 emperors, but he'd fought both the demon emperor and Jiao Hai at the same time. Forget beating them back, he hadn't even been at a disadvantage. If Emperor Hades could do this, his cultivation must be unfathomable. Lord 7, since he beat up those 2, why did he let them go? Jade Lake Palace Master. A period of decline. Lord 7. I forgot. Sweating. Lord 3. How did Emperor Hades enter a period of decline again? Isn't this happening a little too quickly? Jade Lake Palace Master. Now that you mention it, it's true. Ocean Emperor. Recently he's entered a period of decline rather quickly. Fox Empress. Think about it carefully. Don't you think this light from the river Styx is very familiar? Ocean Emperor. Familiar? The other emperors were also confused. They didn't quite understand what Emperor Chao Feng was talking about. Suddenly, Lord 7, I remember now. Something like this happened to the river Styx before. Since then, Emperor Hades hasn't appeared again. Jade Lake Palace Master. That's true. Lord 3, that's true. Ocean Emperor. Are you saying that Emperor Hades will suddenly disappear like Emperor Hades did? Ocean Emperor. Lady Providence, Hermit Emperor, these 2 haven't mentioned anything about the river Styx. I'm guessing they have some inside information. Lord 3. Lady Providence, Hermit Emperor, I don't know. If you want information, you should ask Lady Providence. She's the one who can pry into heaven's secrets. Lord of the Big Dipper. Lady Providence. At that moment, Yi Zichen and the others looked at Xianji as well. They were all together, so they could see her expression the best. However, they discovered that her expression was incomparably solemn, and her eyes betrayed her internal struggle. Monkey King, As expected, Lady Providence knows some inside information. Her expression is fierce. Erlingshin, idiot, that's called being conflicted. Monkey King, you talk too much. Hermit Emperor, Lady Providence, just tell everyone. There's no need to hide it. Lord of the Big Dipper? Chapter 1534. Heavenly God City. News of Yaoan demons invading God Realm territories spread like wildfire. Countless people living in Heavenly God City and the Central Divine Mountain panicked. Countless experts contacted their friends, hoping to learn more about the other divine mountains. Fortunately, the other divine mountains hadn't suffered particularly serious invasions, so the cultivators in Heavenly God City relaxed. However, when they tried to leave the city and head to the cities of their friends or family, they were stopped by the city's guards. During this time, without the God Emperor's approval, no one was allowed to take even half a step out of the city. Countless cultivators in Heavenly God City complained about such a forceful decision. However, due to the threat of the city guards, they had no choice but to remain. Their hearts were filled with longing and worry, and the city's resentment had already reached a boiling cauldron. Even under these circumstances, God Emperor Zhou Wu's decision wasn't to appease these cultivators. He wasn't there to appease the cultivators, but to order the various factions in the city to use even more powerful force to suppress them. God Emperor. The Divine Arbiter stood outside the long curtains of the God Emperor's room, worry etched on her pretty face. She'd been under the most pressure during this time. The God Emperor didn't care about the city's affairs at all. He was completely focused on transcending. Most of the other God clans wanted to send more members to the other divine mountains, and she'd sent them a message to suppress them. Afterwards, the cultivators in the city grew restless and more restless. At first, they'd accumulated resentment, but in the end, they'd suddenly exploded. Although news of the demon invasion had spread like wildfire, only 3 days had passed since then. The city had already seen several small-scale riots. Suppress. Forcibly suppress. Time and time again, the Divine Arbiter's family and the other families had suppressed the riots. However, this only served to deepen their resentment. No one could imagine whether or not the God Emperor's estate would be able to intimidate them with martial might in the end. She'd come here to discuss with the God Emperor about whether or not they should send reinforcements to the other divine mountains. At the very least, they needed to appease the cultivators in the city. After whispering to the God Emperor, the Divine Arbiter waited behind the curtains. She was the person closest to the God Emperor, so she knew his recent mood. As he was in the middle of a breakthrough, he hated being disturbed. Time flew by. The Divine Arbiter could only watch as the sky outside darkened. Only then did a soft murmur emerge from the God Emperor's room. "Come in." He lifted the curtains and entered. The God Emperor was wearing white pajamas and was barefooted. His hair was messy and he looked very slovenly. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared at his hands. Even though the Divine Arbiter had already entered the room, his expression remained the same. Faint traces of madness could be seen in his eyes. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Zhou Wu kept muttering to himself. During this period of time, he had already touched the door to transcendence countless times. Even though the door was clearly within his reach, he just couldn't take that one step. He could only pace back and forth in front of the door, unable to actually walk in. At first, he was excited. He thought he was going to succeed. At first, she was a little impatient, and now she was even a little hysterical. It was as if there was no one around, and the low murmurs continued for a full hour. "Why are you here? Is there any news from Xuetai?" The God Emperor sat cross-legged on his bed, his brows furrowed. "I'm only one step away from transcendence. If I can find Xuetai, I'll steal his celestial fate and ascend to transcendence." "Not yet," said the Divine Arbiter. "Not yet? Then why are you here? Didn't I tell you not to come looking for me unless it was important?" Zhou Wu's gaze instantly grew cold. "Xuetai is being protected too well by the Shao family. I've already sent people to investigate, but as you know, the demons are currently attacking several divine mountains. Their defenses are excellent, so it'll be difficult for our men to infiltrate them," said the Divine Arbiter. "If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have forgotten. Are the divine mountains in such a state? Are they seriously damaged?" asked Zhou Wu. "The demons are only testing the waters. The casualties on the divine mountains aren't particularly severe," replied the Divine Arbiter. Suddenly, Zhou Wu's eyes flashed with disappointment. When the Divine Arbiter saw his gaze, her heart froze. "Is there anything else you want to say?" Zhou Wu seemed to have lost interest in everything and was about to ask her to leave. Just as the Divine Arbiter was about to tell the God Emperor about the situation in the city, a streak of purple light suddenly appeared outside the window. The God Emperor, dressed in his white pajamas, suddenly transformed into a wisp of smoke and disappeared. The Divine Arbiter followed him into the sky. The multicolored light had appeared from beneath the divine mountains. Not only did the God Emperor and the Divine Arbiter notice it, but the other cultivators and experts in the city also noticed it. Could a supreme treasure have appeared beneath the divine mountains? Even at the divine mountains, the multicolored light was still dazzling. It was easy to imagine how blinding it would be. The same thought flashed through the minds of quite a few cultivators. If that weren't the case, they wouldn't be able to understand why the light would descend upon the divine mountains. The God Emperor looked at all of this with a deep gaze. For some reason, he laughed. "That's wonderful." Suddenly, Zhou Wu said something like that. The Divine Arbiter frowned in confusion. "What's so special about this multicolored light? Is it really a supreme treasure? Do you need me to retrieve it for you?" "A supreme treasure," Zhou Wu sneered. "It's not a supreme treasure. Of course, this multicolored light could be the birth of a supreme treasure. That was understandable. If it were anywhere else, Zhou Wu would have thought it was a supreme treasure, but this multicolored light had appeared in the river Styx. He was certain that his eyes weren't playing tricks on him. The multicolored light had come from the river Styx. If it's not a supreme treasure, then it's light from the river Styx. Zhou Wu snorted. "I can't believe he's still alive, despite how much I've targeted him. I never would have guessed that the demon's invasion would fulfill my wish. I really have to thank the Southern Empire." "You mean? All right, there's nothing to see here. Let's go back." Zhou Wu seemed to be in a good mood as he landed in the God Emperor's estate. The Divine Arbiter stood in the sky and looked at the multicolored light for a long time. "Your Majesty, are you saying that Emperor Hades?" "Yes, that's exactly what you're thinking." The Divine Arbiter's expression froze. "Then shouldn't the God Emperor's estate send reinforcements to the river Styx? If the God Emperor perishes, the river Styx's defenses will be halved. If the Yao break through, we won't have." "Who says we won't? Don't we have other divine mountains?" "But—" "No buts." Zhou Wu coldly interrupted her and snorted. "Divine Arbiter, I can sense that you're very concerned about my enemies." Chapter 1535. The Divine Arbiter bowed her head as she saw the God Emperor off, her heart struggling even more. No matter how devoted and loyal she was to the God Emperor, she suddenly didn't know what to do. This wasn't the God Emperor she'd once known. This wasn't the awe-inspiring God Emperor she'd admired ever since she was a child. She was really struggling. Her hands kept on fumbling around in her pockets, biting hard on her lip. For an entire hour she kept her hands in her pockets. In the end, she seemed to have really made up her mind. Looking at the room that the Divine Emperor had sealed up with his divine powers, she turned and left. In contrast to the God Emperor's indifference, the Yaoan demons were in a completely different situation. The Council of the Four Nations. The Yao had no choice but to reconsider their plans to cross the river Styx after their defeat. The leaders of the Four Nations had arrived with their leaders. Naturally, their conversation was about their only enemy, Emperor Hades. "Jiao Hai, tell us." Even now, Jiao Hai's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. His chest was wrapped in white bandages. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. He was an arrogant man who'd never even considered Emperor Dongguang a threat. To him, this defeat was an unbearable humiliation. There's nothing to say. Our skills were inferior, and we lost. But I can't just let this go. He dared to humiliate me, so of course I'll regroup and teach him a lesson. The reason I've brought you here is to ask if you'd like to join the Southern Kingdom. Forget about the North. A scholarly-looking middle-aged man raised his hand and said with a smile, "The North has never advocated war. If you want to attack the gods, go ahead. The North doesn't want to get caught up in this storm, and won't fight a civil war. There will not be a civil war in the Northlands. In this war, the Northlands will not help anyone." As soon as he finished speaking, Bagua had already left with his men. Faced with this scene, no one present was surprised. The entire Yao race knew the King of the North had a good impression of the gods. It was impossible for him to invade them. The fact that he'd stayed out of the fray meant he'd met their expectations. On the other hand, the King of the Southern Kingdom had an ugly expression on his face. He had always looked down on the King of the Northern Kingdom. That's enough, Jiaohai. That's just how he is. We all know that. It's already very commendable for him to be able to do this. The one who spoke was an old man wearing a headscarf and holding a pipe. He was also the king of the Western region, one of the 4 countries, Tai-Tan. Humph, sooner or later, I will conquer his northern kingdom. Jiaohai snorted with a ferocious face. Are the others left? Our Fox clan will not participate in this. The Fox clan was led by the heavenly nine-tailed Fox clan. The one who had spoken was a special envoy from the Fox clan. The same goes for the dragons. The Vermilion Bird clan as well. The same goes for the Tiger clan. The Black Tortoise clan does not wish to participate. These sacred race clans had been sworn allies since ancient times, and they were still so even now. As soon as the Nine-Tailed Fox clan refused to join, the other sacred beast clans followed suit. Goodbye. The envoys left one after another. At this time, the king of the Eastern nation said with a bitter smile, "Everyone, then this old one cannot join either. Since the sacred ancestors of our nation are not participating, I have no one else to bring." He Jiaohai smiled indifferently. In fact, he had already expected this outcome before he had brought them here. Those who had expected to stay had indeed stayed, and those who had thought of leaving had indeed left. There was no discrepancy. "All right, then you may leave." Suddenly, Jiaohai pursed his lips and smiled. "We will be enemies the moment we step out of this hall, no problem." "Are you threatening us?" The Fox clan's envoy stopped, and the other envoys stopped as well. They looked at Jiaohai with bright eyes. "The king of the northern nation can leave, but why can't we? You want us to work with you? When the Fox clan is invaded by the demons, will the other nations come to their aid? The southern nation has been working with the demons for a long time. It's a tacit understanding." The Tiger clan's envoy snorted. "Same here. Didn't the Fox clan also work with the God clan?" Jiaohai smiled faintly. "It seems like we've found allies and our enemies. However, I'm asking your king, not you. Have you thought it through, old Bai? Be enemies with the southern nation." "I haven't." The king of the eastern nation was an old man who looked like the Maitreya Buddha when he smiled. "But these sacred clans don't want to. There's nothing I can do, right? I'm asking for your opinion." "Then, their opinion is my opinion." It was hard to imagine that the king of the eastern nation was still smiling even though it was a declaration of war. The faces of the southern nation and the western regions darkened. The king of the eastern nation also chuckled. Goodbye. The meeting of the 4 nations ended as quickly as it started. In just a few minutes, only the southern nation and the western regions remained. Those who stayed felt heavy. The eastern nation's words were clear. In the future, they would stand on the opposite side of the 2 nations. "Jiaohai, what do you think?" The king of the western regions narrowed his eyes. If the eastern nation works with the God clan, we will be attacked from both sides if we attack the river Styx. Even if we cooperate with the demon emperor and the others, the demon race isn't united at all. I think they're the same as us four countries, having a lot of differences of opinion. So Rash, do we have a good chance of winning if we attack the God clan? What are you afraid of? Jiao Hai said ruthlessly. If the eastern nation dares to stab us in the back, we will destroy them first. Plus, we have to face the river Styx and Emperor Ming. I calculated that not many people from the God clan will come to help. It's obvious that the God clan isn't united. But Emperor Ming, his strength is indeed unfathomable, Jiao Hai said seriously. Wangu Chongqing didn't say that for nothing. His realm is high. We can't compare to him. If that's the case, how can we attack the river Styx? What if Emperor Ming isn't here? Jiao Hai smiled. Your words, you should have seen the glow of the river Styx on your way here. Naturally, the king of the western regions said. I wanted to ask you, what's the situation with the glow of the river Styx? Just before you came, the demon emperor sent me a message. A smile flickered in Jiao Hai's eyes. Mingdi's time is up. This. The king of the western region's expression froze. I was shocked too. I didn't feel it when we fought. But after what the demon emperor said, I thought about it carefully. There are indeed many problems. For example, why did Emperor Ming want me to leave when he could have taken my life? Releasing a tiger back into the mountains. No one would do that. There's only one possibility. Chapter 1536. Emperor Hades was the main obstacle to the Yao race crossing the river Styx. The everlasting Emperor Hades was the nightmare of countless monsters. His unfathomable cultivation and limitless methods struck fear into the hearts of countless experts. As long as Emperor Hades remained on the throne, the Yao race would have to think long and hard about crossing the river Styx. But if Emperor Hades were to perish, the situation would change drastically. Are you sure? The Western king straightened his back and placed his hands on his thighs, staring intently at Jiao Hai. Emperor Hades's death would have a huge impact on their future plans. This information had to be absolutely accurate. Jiao Hai didn't nod directly. Instead, he took out a jade slip and seemed to be communicating with the demon emperor. He knew that Emperor Hades's death was too important to them. They couldn't afford to be careless. The jade slip glowed. The Western king and his trusted subordinates waited quietly. 90%. Jiao Hai, who had been communicating with the demon emperor all this time, suddenly spoke. His jade slip was still glowing, but he didn't stop talking. The demon emperor revealed to me that this happened before the old Emperor Hades disappeared. He never saw Emperor Hades again. He guessed that the old Emperor Hades was dead. Now that the current Emperor Hades is like this, he thinks there's a 90% chance that Emperor Hades has perished. 90%. The Western king pursed his lips and rubbed his hands. Even though the chances of Emperor Hades's death were high, he still wasn't 100% sure. The lives of all the Yao in his kingdom were on the line for this battle. It was a huge gamble. He had to be extremely cautious. Thinking back to when the old Emperor Hades was still on the throne, all of them could be considered old fellows now, but back then, they'd just been kids who hadn't even reached the supreme level yet. Thinking back, this had indeed happened on the river Styx on the Divine Mountain. After that, the old Emperor Hades hadn't appeared again. Emperor Hades reappeared before everyone. He was the current Emperor Hades. Jiao Hai, don't waste my breath. After the old Emperor Hades disappeared, the current Emperor Hades appeared and intimidated us for tens of thousands of years. Now that he's dead, who knows if another Emperor Hades will appear? That means... Jiao Hai was stunned. He was only thinking about how to regain his face and didn't think about this. The Western region king's worry wasn't unfounded. If the current Ming-Di disappeared, would the next Ming-Di be as strong as him? Wait a moment. Jiao Hai went to contact the demon emperor again. Not long after, a smile flashed in his eyes. He put down the jade slip and said a few words to the king of the Western region. The Western region king and his trusted aides were all stunned. Although their eyes still flickered with hesitation, they were no longer as fearful as before. What do you think? Then let's give it a try. The multicolored light of Emperor Hades' secondary palace lasted for a full day and night without diminishing. At first, only Shuiyang had been expelled from the palace, but in the end, all of the vicious beasts in the river Styx were expelled as well. No one knew what was going on. Only Yi Zichen's battle group. Jade Lake Palace Master. Even now, I still can't believe that Emperor Hades' time has come. Lord 7. Who would believe this? Rulers live as long as the heavens and earth, and as long as the era lasts, their lifespans will never end. Emperor Hades is an outstanding talent among rulers. Who would believe that his time has come? Fox Empress. Lady Providence, are you sure that Emperor Hades' time has truly come to an end? Lady Providence, I'm 90% sure. The group fell deathly silent. In truth, none of them were particularly close to Emperor Hades, but he was, after all, an everlasting god. Everyone had watched him grow to his current level. Suddenly saying that Emperor Hades' time had come was truly unbearable. Furthermore, at this critical juncture, Emperor Hades was one of the most important existences in the war. His departure would drastically reduce the river Styx's combat strength. Hermit Emperor, actually, that's normal. Ocean Emperor, why do you say that, Hermit Emperor? Hermit Emperor, everyone, have you ever thought about how long our era has existed? Were there no rulers at the beginning of the era? Hermit Emperor, of course there were. Hermit Emperor, it's said that rulers live as long as the heavens and earth, but who's truly lived to this day? Hermit Emperor, the old Lightning Emperor, the old Demon Emperor, or any other powerful senior, none of them survived to this day, right? The group fell silent once more. Everything was just as the Hermit Emperor said. Even the Hermit Emperor, the oldest of these great emperors, hadn't lived for more than 1,000,000 years. But now their era was nearing its end. After all, an era spanned 120 million years. In truth, all of them counted as members of the new generation. Not a single one of their seniors had survived. Yang Jian and the great sage could only watch helplessly. Like Yi Zichen, they hadn't been in the god realm for long, so they knew very little about the older generation. There was no way they could get a word in. Xian Ji gazed intently at the river Styx. As she looked at the blinding light, her expression grew solemn. Fox Empress. Everyone, an important announcement. Fox Empress. The Yao Southern Kingdom contacted the Yao Western regions. They're preparing to join forces and attack the river Styx. Get Emperor Hades' people ready. The same goes for the other divine mountains. The demons will most likely attack at the same time. Lord 7, got it. How did you know? Fox Empress. As soon as the southern kingdom's Jiao Hai returned, the Yao realm summoned all 4 of their leaders. Although our Fox clan doesn't deign to act as their leader, we still have to send a special envoy. Jade Lake Palace Head. The Eastern Kingdom's king is truly pitiful. He has so many disobedient sacred beasts under his command. Little Grandaunt. Even the Northern Kingdom isn't participating? Lord 3. It's normal for them not to participate. The Northern Kingdom's king has a good impression of the god realm, so it's normal for them not to participate. Fox Empress. Only idealism, Lady Providence, be careful of Emperor Hades. Since he's reached the end of his lifespan, you'll have to deal with the river Styx's defenses. But there's no need to worry. Even if they attack, you'll be afraid of us pincer them from behind. We'll be attacked from both front and back. Only idealism, understood. Ocean Emperor. Hey, do you know who I admire the most right now? Lord 7. Zhou Wu probably. Ocean Emperor, you're right. Ocean Emperor. He's clearly the emperor of the god realm, but when the demons invaded, he didn't even let out a fart. It's just the few of us who are busy. Lady Providence, has Zhou Wu sent word that he's going to send more people? Lady Providence, I haven't been in contact with Zhou Wu in a long time. Lady Providence, but based on my understanding of him, it's too difficult to get him to send reinforcements. He'd love nothing more than to see all of us dead. Jade Lake Palace Head, he's too petty. If we're gone, how can the God Realm still exist? Just as the members of the group were slandering Zhou Wu, Lord 3, who'd been silent all this time, popped up. Lord 3, I'll drag someone into the group. Chapter 1537. When Third Master's invitation appeared in the group, all the great emperors were stunned for a long time. Stranger? Who was he? All the members of the Great Alliance had arrived. Could it be that the people on Great Emperor Chao Feng's side were here? It was just that Yi Rong, the Lord of the Big Dipper, had always traveled with Chao Feng, so he had never seen other lords of the Big Dipper accompanying him. Compared to the other great emperors who were deep in thought, the great sage and the others were much more enthusiastic. Monkey King, welcome, welcome. Scattering flowers, scattering flowers, scattering flowers. Erlingshin, are you a GG or a girl? Color, 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 invincible adorable beauty. Newcomers photo explosion San Wei. Smirk, Elder San. Stranger, this is our preparation group. Welcome to our big family. Elder San, do you need me to introduce you to the people here? Stranger, no need. I can roughly guess who they are. Monkey King, you even guessed that I, old son, am here. You are too cruel. Then tell me who I am. Stranger, yeah, I don't know you. Monkey King, ha 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 ha. The laughter came directly from the river Styx. Yang Jian was holding his phone as he guffawed. The great sage narrowed his eyes and glared at him. My son, why don't you try smiling again? Isn't that a slap in the face? I don't know you? You're making me laugh to death. Yang Jian sneered while holding the phone. Look at me. Erlingshin, then you must know me. Stranger. You don't know him either. Ha 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 ha. This time, it was the great sage who burst out laughing. Yang Jian, who had just laughed at the great sage, looked at the message on the screen and suddenly felt as if his face had been slapped. Especially since he had said such big words before, it was an exceptionally loud slap to the face. Wild monkey, you're asking for a beating. My son, you're so angry that you want to fight. Then come on, do you really think your great-grandpa is afraid of you? The two buffoons brandished their weapons and continued fighting. Quite a few cultivators from the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion couldn't help but facepalm. How many times had these two masters fought with each other? If they didn't agree with each other, they would attack. Comparatively speaking, Yi Zichen and the others weren't surprised at all. No matter how loud the commotion above was, their attention was now on this mysterious stranger. That stranger is pretty interesting too, laughed Pu Jingwan. But who is she? Yi Zichen scrolled through her moments, but it was completely empty. However, her gender was shown as female. That was the only information they could see. Lady Providence. Third Master, won't you introduce him to us? Jade Lake Palace Master. Exactly. Before Great Emperor Chao Feng could speak, the mysterious person had already sent his greetings in the group. Strangers. Lady Providence, Jade Lake Palace Master, Ocean Emperor, Hermit Emperor, Bayan Great Emperor, Water Empress, Lord of the Big Dipper Star, greetings. Jade Lake Palace Master, she actually knows us. Ocean Monarch. Jade Lake Palace Master, are you stupid? Isn't that what we're called? Grandpa 7, then how did she know I was by you? The Hermit Emperor, Fox Empress, hello. I feel like this person is definitely someone with a similar status as you all? Yi Zichen suddenly said when he saw the messages in the group. Why do you say that? Xianji looked at him. You can tell from the way she greeted you, said Yi Zichen, pointing at the messages. If it were someone of a lower status than you, they'd definitely be afraid to greet you alone. But this person greeted you all at the same time, and in the end, She used the most ordinary of greetings. If it weren't for people of your level, even a divine general would be scared out of his wits by this many great emperors. That makes sense. Xianji nodded. Furthermore, there's the most direct way to tell. With that, Yi Zichen typed out a message in the group. Only idealism. Hello, do you know me? Strangers. Alliance head Yi, of course I know you. Look. Yi Zichen looked directly at Xianji. She knows a nobody like me? Naturally, she's at your level. My information is only available to people of your level. As he explained things to Xianji, Yi Zichen chatted casually with her. Only idealism. So you know me? It seems I'm pretty famous. Strangers. How can you not be famous? Is news about you everywhere in the God realm? Not only does she know you, you're the one who opened the Emperor's celestial eye, right? Xuetai's just covering for you. All of a sudden, everyone in the group felt a chill down their spines. Information about the Emperor's star was a top secret. How could someone great Emperor Chao Feng had pulled into the group say something like that? Deathly silence. No one else in the group continued chatting. The great emperors were undoubtedly trying to figure out this person's identity, or perhaps they were sending private messages to great Emperor Chao Feng. Xianji, for example, was one of them. Lord Third, cough, cough, cough. Stranger, don't make trouble for me. My messages are about to explode. Lord Third, everyone, I can't reveal this stranger's identity right now because I already promised her I'd keep it a secret. Stranger, don't worry, I won't tell anyone that Yi Zichen is the Emperor's star. Stranger, I came here to understand the situation of the Divine Mountains, as well as the river Styx. The group was still silent. After a while, Xianji sent a message. Lady Providence, can we trust her? Lord Third, she's absolutely trustworthy. In truth, she's always been one of my people, and we've been in close contact. Although I can't tell you who she is right now, she's absolutely trustworthy. I can guarantee it on my honor. Only idealism. Since the great emperors say so, I trust her. After that, Yi Zichen explained the situation at the river Styx, and the other great emperors told him more or less about the situation on their divine mountains. No one knew who this stranger was, but since Chao Feng said so, they were willing to believe her. Stranger, as long as he's fine, that's good. However, I urge you all to be careful. Zhou Wu won't send reinforcements, so please be careful. The God race needs the great emperor's protection. Stranger, there's one more thing I'd like to know, and that's... Stranger, did Emperor Hades really fall? Lady Providence, 90% likely. Stranger, alright. Stranger, I won't disturb you any longer. If there's any news that's worth your attention, I'll tell you immediately. I hope you can share the situation of the Divine Mountain or the Styx River with me as well. Stranger, before I leave, I'd like to have a word with Alliance Head Yi. Chapter 1538. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. The Nether River was still sealed. The Ocean Sovereign had tried to enter the Nether River, but she was blocked outside. However, compared to the dazzling purple glow from before, the brilliance of the Netherworld River was slightly dimmer. During this time, Yi Zichen and Xianji busied themselves with setting up defenses at the river Styx. Regardless of whether it was the information that the Fox Empress had revealed in the group chat or the information that had been sent out to gather intelligence, they all indicated that the demon race's southern nation and western region would definitely send their armies to the Netherworld River in the near future. The great emperors on the Divine Mountain felt the same way. In the past few days, they had also sensed the demonic race's movement. For a time, the atmosphere in the territory of the God race was particularly tense. Yi Zi, the decorations are almost done. Clad in his silver armor, Yang Jian walked into the tent, which had recently been erected for the beasts, the Upheaval Alliance, the Profound Pavilion, and the Hermit Palace. Just like when two armies fought in ancient times, Yi Zichen's tent was covered with a map he'd drawn with divine power. It depicted the geography of the river Styx and the surrounding Yao territories in great detail. "Thank you for your hard work." Yi Zichen indicated for Yang Jian to drink a cup of hot tea, then cracked his neck. "Have you seen the ferocious beast commanders of the Nether River in the past few days?" "They're back." Yang Jian nodded. "Not long ago, those dire beast commanders returned to the river Styx. I asked them where they went, but they all kept their mouths shut and were very irritable. Keep an eye on them. It's impossible to leave the Styx River without any problems." "I know. The monkey is already watching them. I don't think they can do anything." Yang Jian snorted. "How are the demons? The Yao beasts of the Southern Empire and the Western regions have already set up camp at the border. From the looks of it, they're probably waiting for some sort of signal," said Hubatzi. "They're probably waiting for the signal from the demon race." Yi Zichen lowered his gaze and muttered. He'd already guessed most of what was going on. "Remind our people not to slack off. In the near future, the demon race will definitely invade the banks of the Netherworld River." With that, Yi Zichen gazed off into the distance and tapped his fingers on the table. "Guli, it's you. I don't know what new tricks you're going to show me this time to make me flabbergasted." Demon Emperor Palace. The Demon Emperor's palace was pitch black and sinister, and several mighty demons sat within it. Strangely, however, the one sitting on the throne wasn't Kuei Lin. Kuei Lin stood beneath the dais. His gaze wasn't sincere, but he didn't dare show the slightest bit of arrogance toward the person sitting on the throne. "Have you contacted them?" The person on the seat lowered his eyes and muttered. His tone was not indifferent at all. Instead, it was a little urgent. His face, which could be considered handsome, was distorted by his expression. His eyes were filled with viciousness and his white teeth were clenched tightly. He was Guli. Everything was as Yi Zichen expected. In truth, he was the one behind this sudden attack. "I've contacted them." Kuei Lin nodded. "As long as we give the order, the divines, Yao, and infernal emperor beasts will take action." "All right." Guli nodded heavily, then laughed sinisterly. "You've already made arrangements with the Fox Clan, right? Are the people I asked you to investigate currently in the Nine-Tailed Fox Clan?" "Su Yen and Xia Kiki are currently with the Fox Clan. As for Li Jiai and Lu Lu, we haven't found their exact locations yet," said the Demon Emperor. "That's enough," said Guli, his expression fierce. "The two of them are more than enough." Guli muttered to himself. No one knew why he'd done this. After returning to the Yao realm, he'd planned to attack ahead of schedule. At first it was just a feint, but in the end, he'd given up on attacking the God realm and was preparing to attack the Nine-Tailed Fox Clan. He'd even gone out of his way to investigate Su Yen and the others. Kuei Lin had secretly investigated their identities and found out they were all Yi Zichen's lovers. "Guli, what exactly are you planning? Is this going to help your transcendence plan in any way?" Their entire alliance had come together for the sake of surviving the end of the era. Demon Emperor Kuei Lin was willing to bow and scrape to Guli because he wanted to transcend. However, whether it was Demon Emperor Kuei Lin or the Alliance's senior executives, none of them could fathom his true intentions. "You don't need to worry about that." Guli narrowed his eyes. His words made Kuei Lin's expression turn unsightly. After all, he was a lofty demon emperor. He'd only bowed to Guli out of respect for the Emperor's star. But judging from Guli's behavior these past few days, he seemed to think of himself as the head of the Great Alliance. Fine. It took a long time for Kuei Lin to quell his anger. Their current situation was rather unique. He needed to rely on Guli, the Emperor's star, to transcend. Guli didn't care for Kuei Lin's unfriendly expression at all. He simply gave his orders. "Let's do it." The mighty Demon Clan army left the territory of the Demon Clan. The Demon Clan, which had already stationed troops at the border, also received the news of the Demon Clan. "Everyone, attack!" Countless families of the god race's divine mountains launched a counterattack the moment they received the news. It wasn't just the other 8 outer divine mountains. It was the same for Heavenly God City. For a time, the divine race was in chaos. Yizi, the demons are making their move. Yang Jian suddenly walked in from outside the tent and shouted anxiously. Yizichen instantly stood up from his chair and roared angrily. All troops on alert. The banks of the Styx River were filled with killing intent. Countless rulers and diviners stood proudly in the void, while supreme beings held weapons in their hands. Emperor Hades had yet to emerge from his secluded cultivation. The river Styx was their last line of defense. An hour had passed, but the demon race had yet to set foot on the Netherworld River. Yizichen and Xianji couldn't help but furrow their brows. Given their speed and the position they'd set up, an hour was more than enough time to get here. Send someone to check out the situation. As soon as he finished speaking, the great sage leapt into the void to scout ahead. Before long, the great sage returned to Yizichen's side, his eyes brimming with surprise. The Yao didn't head for the river Styx at all. They just left a few people at the border. Most of the Yao are gone. Gone? Chapter 1539. Fox Empress. Greetings, great emperors of the divine mountains. The Fox clan has suffered heavy losses. We urgently need your help. Fox Empress. Greetings, great emperors of the divine mountains. The Fox clan has suffered heavy losses. We urgently need your help. Fox Empress. Greetings, great emperors of the divine mountains. The Fox clan has suffered heavy losses. We urgently need your help. The Fox clan empress repeated the same message multiple times. When she saw it, she immediately replied in the group chat. Lady Providence. The Fox clan has suffered heavy losses. Didn't you say the Dragon clan and Vermilion Bird clan are there? Fox Empress. The Yao, Western regions, and Yao are attacking the Fox clan at the same time. Although the Dragon clan and Vermilion Bird clan are there, it'll be difficult for them to resist. The other sacred beasts are also sending reinforcements, but I don't think we can stop them. Attack the Fox clan. Yizichen and Xianji instinctively glanced at each other. They'd never guessed the Yaoan demons would cause such a ruckus. Were they attacking the Fox clan now because they were worried that while the Yao and Western regions attacked the river Styx, the Eastern Empire would stab them in the back? Lord 7. I can't move here. Although there aren't many demons here, many factions on the Divine Mountains have launched a massacre against the Four Directions Pavilion and cultivators of the Divine Mountains. I need to sort things out first before I can go help the Fox clan. Lord 3. Ditto. Jade Lake Palace Head. Ditto. Ocean Emperor. Ditto. Hermit Emperor. Ditto. Several great emperors appeared in the group chat. To everyone's surprise, they were all in pretty much the same situation. Stranger. Heavenly God City and the surrounding cities are in the same situation. This. When the others saw the messages, they froze. The Divine Mountains were in chaos. They had no time to worry about others. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan was in dire straits. Only Idealism, the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion will be there soon. There were no messages from the Fox Empress in the group chat. The person who just sent the message wasn't the Fox Empress either. From the way she called herself Junior, it was obvious. The Fox Empress was undoubtedly fighting the demons and Yao expert. The person who'd sent the message hadn't said anything else. It was clear that the Fox clan's internal situation was extremely tense. There was no time to lose in aiding the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. Yizichen and Xianji put their phones back in their pocket. Just as they were about to lead a group of reinforcements, they saw the river Styx's vicious beasts block the path of the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion's forces. You're working with Gu Li as well? Standing in front of Yizichen and the others were none other than the vicious beasts who'd left the river Styx. These beasts were all ancient beings of the underworld river, and their cultivation bases were high enough to become emperors. When the South Kingdom invaded, they stayed in the Nether River and didn't attack. They didn't show up until the Nether River expelled them. Sort of. These beasts didn't hide anything and nodded with a smile. You guys sure have guts. Yizichin narrowed his eyes, then looked solemnly at the vicious beasts. Aren't you afraid that Emperor Hades will come out of seclusion? Even 100 deaths wouldn't be enough to atone for your actions. At the mention of Ming Di, the Nether River beasts' eyelids twitched visibly. They were naturally afraid of Emperor Hades. Otherwise, they wouldn't have obediently holed up in the river Styx for tens of thousands of years without the slightest hint of rebellion. Their fear of Emperor Hades had long since seeped into their bones. So much so that whenever the name Emperor Hades was mentioned, they subconsciously shivered. Hurry up and get out of the way. We can spare your lives. Suddenly Yizichin roared. The nine-tailed fox clan was in dire straits. They were the only faction capable of providing reinforcements. The longer these beasts held them back, the worse their situation would become. Su Yen and Kiki were both at the fox clan. Never mind for the sake of the entire fox clan. He didn't have time to waste even if it was for his own personal reasons. If you don't want to die, hurry up and scram. Yelling them away was for the best. If they fought, they'd drag things out for even longer, and more of his forces would die. Before going to the Fox clan, Yizichin had to do everything in his power to prevent that from happening. Brat, don't use Emperor Hades to trick us. However, Yizichin's rebuke had no effect on the beasts. Don't think I don't know. Emperor Hades died just like that. The river Styx's current situation is no different from when Emperor Hades disappeared. Do you think the river Styx can still come out? Why not? Why not? Rumble. The river Styx's waters suddenly shot into the sky. Several pillars of water shot into the clouds. The river Styx's soaring waters stunned the beasts. Their eyes flashed with terror. Then, a pitch-black figure descended like a beam of light in front of the beast. Even Xianji and the others couldn't see who it was. So you know about Emperor Hades's past. It seems you've lived long enough. But I hate it when people bring it up. Crack. The beast's head was instantly twisted off. All of this happened in the time it takes a spark to fly off a flint. No one saw what happened. All they heard was a few whispers. By the time they came to their senses, the beast's head had already been severed. Emperor Hades. When they saw who it was, the surviving beasts went deathly pale. Their lips trembled, but they couldn't form a complete sentence. You guys, did you work with the demons too? Even though Emperor Hades's words were soft, the remaining mighty beasts, who were powerful enough to become emperors, all fell to their knees in the sky. No, we didn't. They were truly afraid. Emperor Hades's sudden appearance had long since drained their legs of the strength to stand. As soon as Emperor Hades appeared, he radiated majesty. The beasts trembled as they knelt, not even daring to breathe too loudly. Yizichin and the others were shocked as well. Xianji had told them, Emperor Hades's time was up. But judging from his current behavior, it didn't look like he was reaching the end of his lifespan at all. Furthermore, they could sense his vitality. Is that all you've got? You want to rebel against me? Emperor Hades snorted and buried his head in the ground. He didn't dare meet Emperor Hades's gaze. At that moment, Emperor Hades gently cracked his neck, then glanced at Yizichin and the others. I'll have to trouble you to defend the river Styx for me. It's nothing. Xianji smiled and nodded, but her gaze quickly darkened. Emperor Hades, you. Suddenly, Emperor Hades stretched out a hand to stop her from speaking. I'm no longer Emperor Hades. From now on, don't call me Emperor Hades. Chapter 1540. The new Emperor Hades. Quite a few of the savage beasts and god race experts were in a daze. Emperor Hades's position was awe-inspiring. Even the god, Yao, and demon emperors had to be careful around him. Based on Emperor Hades's words just now, it seemed he was about to step down. In that case, who would inherit his position? Countless god race experts didn't know, but the river Styx, Yizichin, Xianji, and the others already knew. Could it be him? Those in the know all wondered if it was them. After all, the title of Emperor Hades was just too heavy. They didn't dare speculate too much. At that moment, the majestic waters of the river Styx suddenly boiled. Fierce waves of heat washed over them. For a moment, the sky darkened. Cold winds howled, crushing the heavens. Everyone, both on the banks of the river Styx and within the defensive perimeter, looked up into the sky. Countless people raised their heads to look at the void. They could all see the surging divine power that was like a raging river, tumbling in the void. The clouds in the sky scattered, and the howling winds kicked up sand and gravel. The river Styx's savage beasts trembled uncontrollably. Their hearts filled with worship. The direction in which they were worshipping was the turbulent river of divine power in the void. Rumble! Rumble! At that moment, an azure dragon roared within the river Styx. Its deafening roar shook the hearts of countless onlookers. Then, they saw a pitch-black dragon soar into the sky. Beneath it, Emperor Hades's secondary palace rose above the surface of the river Styx. The palace flickered with pitch-black light, so dazzling that no one dared look directly at it. Gradually, the savage beasts and divine race experts on the banks of the river Styx subconsciously lowered their weapons and looked up at Emperor Hades' palace in the sky. Regardless of whether they were spiritual body, human immortals, earth immortals, sky immortals, immortal kings, or supremes, they all stepped out of their houses as if they'd received an irresistible summons. They looked up, their eyes filled with awe as they gazed up at the river Styx. Some gasped, some sighed, some were awed. It should have been very messy, but there was no uproar. The noise was clear to the ear. Countless people didn't know what had happened, but they had a vague idea. Even though they couldn't be sure, they knew that something big was going to happen in the Netherworld River today. Inexplicably, the sound of footsteps could be heard in the air. Then they saw a young man floating in the air. He wore the same purple robes as Hades. His eyes were tightly shut, as if he was in pain, but they would relax from time to time. Suiyun. As soon as he stepped forward, the river Styx, Yizichin, and the others recognized him. It really is him. The rest of the ordinary cultivators did not dare to sigh silently, for fear that they would ruin this important ceremony. Only Xianji nodded gently. When she looked at Emperor Hades, she saw that his lips were curved in a satisfied smile. It seemed like Emperor Hades was very satisfied with this trusted Emperor Hades. She withdrew her gaze and looked back at Suiyun. Although she could pry into the mysteries of the heavens and learn things ordinary people couldn't, this was her first time witnessing Emperor Hades' ascension ceremony. She couldn't hide her curiosity. Emperor Hades' ascension ceremony was about to begin. The entire void was shrouded in darkness by Hades' Emperor's palace. The black dragon's soul above the palace roared incessantly, causing countless cultivators to instinctively lower their heads. They trembled from the very depths of their bones. They couldn't help but feel fear. Emperor Hades' palace blotted out the sky, blotting out the light of the sun, moon, and stars. Everyone was enveloped in darkness. But even in this darkness, Emperor Hades' palace glowed brilliantly, its light spreading over the earth. Not long after, the Nether River seemed to resonate with Emperor Hades' touring abode and began to radiate multicolored light. However, if you looked closely, you'd realize that this light was actually a condensation of souls. The light they emitted was the spiritual fire of their souls. It gathered into a long river that swirled around Suiyun. It was a stunning sight. Everyone held their breath. Countless cultivators shut their mouths and stared in shock. They didn't move a muscle, afraid that the slightest sound would ruin this solemn ceremony. Not only that, but they could also sense an oppressive aura that seemed to come from the depths of their souls. This sort of pressure made even the most arrogant of people feel subservient. They couldn't help but feel reverence. Whether it was the river Styx's beasts, the god race cultivators, Yang Jian, the great sage, or even Xianji, everyone's hearts raced. This was the might of Emperor Hades' throne, inherited from countless generations of Emperor Hades. Every single Emperor Hades had been a peerless genius. The other great emperors' inheritances might have been weapons or treasures, but only Emperor Hades. They'd only inherited Emperor Hades' imperial title. Someone among the river Styx's beasts knelt on the ground. Before long, the beasts were on their knees like a tide, placing their hands devoutly on the ground. Although the god race cultivators weren't like the beasts, they still bowed deeply. Their arms rested on the right side of their chests, their eyes filled with sincerity and reverence as they looked up at Suiyun, who was surrounded by the river Styx's souls. Even Xian Ji and the others, and even the Yao guarding the border. They all bowed slightly. This was Emperor Hades' throne. The entire world knelt in worship. This was a show of respect for the new Emperor Hades, and even more so for the former Emperor Hades. The only person who didn't bow was the former Emperor Hades. Even though he'd handed over the throne to Suiyun, he was still the former Emperor Hades. He had enough qualifications to still stand proudly under this type of situation, not being moved by it. But if you looked at him, you'd see. The smile on his lips grew wider and wider. When he'd first decided to hand over the throne to Suiyun, he'd hesitated. In the end, Suiyun hadn't been with him long enough. He hadn't taught him any of Emperor Hades' secret technique. He was worried that the position of Underworld Emperor would reject him if he were to be given the position. But now it seemed he'd been worrying too much. Perhaps the heavens really had taken pity on him, giving him this disciple in his twilight years. Perhaps his disciple really was sent by the heavens to inherit the throne, someone who could make Emperor Hades' imperial title shine even brighter. Looking down at the crowd, he could see that they'd been completely intimidated by Suiyun's imperial aura. Emperor Hades smiled gently, clasping his hands behind his back as he approached Suiyun. It was time for him to show himself. Emperor Hades stepped through the air, landing in front of Suiyun as the crowd watched in awe. Compared to Suiyun, who just inherited the throne, the beasts feared Emperor Hades even more. Their fear of Suiyun stemmed from their imperial aura, but Emperor Hades, they trembled from the very core. Chapter 1541. His roar reached the heavens and pierced the clouds. It seemed like Emperor Hades was making an announcement to the vicious beasts, but little did they know that he really was making an announcement. Countless major powers, even in seclusion, felt Emperor Hades's voice explode in their seas of consciousness like thunder, reverberating in their ears for a long time. In that instant the gods, Yao, and demons all found out. Suiyun was the new Emperor Hades. His roar shook the hearts of countless experts. Next, Emperor Hades did something even more shocking. After making his announcement, he turned to face Suiyun and took a few steps back. He bowed deeply to him. To others, this might seem like an ordinary scene, but this was Emperor Hades. For countless years, no one had ever seen him bow to anyone. Perhaps only the previous Emperor Hades had ever received such a bow. And yet, he turned to Suiyun. "Greetings, Emperor Hades." In response to Emperor Hades's roar, the vicious beasts on the banks of the river Styx shouted in unison. "Greetings, Emperor Hades! Greetings, Emperor Hades! Greetings, Emperor Hades!" The sound waves were louder than the one before, and they erupted from the netherworld river like waves, forming a deafening roar that could shake the heavens. The cultivators in the city seemed to be affected by the commotion and began to shout as well. The Yao beasts were enemies of Emperor Hades, so they absolutely couldn't shout out loud. However, the Yao beasts at the border couldn't help but silently chant Emperor Hades's name in their hearts. The previous Emperor Hades had stepped down, so Suiyun was the new Emperor Hades. He was the only Emperor Hades. Countless people stared up at Suiyun in front of Emperor Hades' palace, their eyes filled with reverence and awe. Quite a few people shouted until their throats were hoarse, but they couldn't stop themselves from shouting. This scene. Even Yi Zichen and the others felt their blood churn. They clenched their fists despite themselves. Especially Yi Zichen. He and Suiyun were brothers. He was naturally happy to see Su Yun inherit Emperor Hades's position, and he was happy for him from the bottom of his heart. However, Yi Zichen was more worried about the situation with the Fox clan. The Fox Empress had already sent out an emergency distress signal. Reinforcements for the nine-tailed Fox clan couldn't be delayed. He urgently wanted to lead his people to the Fox clan of the Demon clan, but the current situation— let's wait for a while. If we leave now, we'll be helping your brother. Xianji seemed to know what Yi Zichen was thinking, so she sent him a transmission. Yi Zichen nodded in response. He naturally knew that leaving now wouldn't be good for Su Yun, but the Fox clan situation really was too dire. After struggling for a while, Yi Zichen could only grit his teeth and do his best not to think about it. Suddenly the earth shook and the mountains shook. The waters of the river Styx suddenly flowed backward. Everyone watched as Su Yun, who'd been floating in the air as if unconscious, trembled slightly. With a flip of his right hand, the Netherworld River that had severed the territories of the God race and the Demon race actually turned into a magic tool and landed in his palm. The river Styx suddenly vanished. This scene caused countless people's hearts to tremble. At that moment, Su Yun opened his eyes. Not even the sun or the moon dared to compete for its brilliance. Up in the sky, Su Yun looked down coldly. This sort of indifference was exactly the same as the previous Emperor Hades. When the beasts below saw his expression, they were even more afraid. However, this indifference didn't last for long. Su Yun's gaze quickly returned to its former friendliness. He stared blankly at the palm-sized river Styx in his hand, then instinctively called out, "Master!" He stared blankly at his own clothes. This purple dragon-embroidered robe was Mingdi's imperial robe. Even his master didn't wear it often. But now, this set of imperial robes was on him. Suddenly, he recalled his time in Emperor Hades's secondary palace. Emperor Hades? Could it be that I'm Emperor Hades now? As he muttered to himself, Su Yun's heart filled with terror. He looked around frantically. Master! Xianji and the others, who were relatively close, noticed Su Yun's change and heard his call. However, when they looked over at Emperor Hades's previous position, he'd long since disappeared. They'd been too focused on the new Emperor Hades to notice how the previous Emperor Hades had left. At that moment, Yun. In his panic, Su Yun suddenly heard a gentle transmission in his sea of consciousness. Having followed Emperor Hades for so long, Su Yun immediately recognized it as his master's. Master! Master, where on earth are you? I don't want to be Emperor Hades. Master, I know you're definitely not at the end of your lifespan. Why do you want to abdicate? Master. Su Yun couldn't help but mutter anxiously. Emperor Hades couldn't help but chuckle. You're quite strange, kid. Everyone in the 8 Desolations wants the title of Emperor Hades. I've already given it to you, but you don't want it. Did you know that the Demon Emperor also coveted the title of Emperor Hades? If you don't believe me, you can go find the Demon Emperor right now and tell him that you want to give him the title and have him abdicate. I think he won't hesitate to abdicate his position as the Demon Emperor. Disciple. Before Su Yun could respond, Emperor Hades laughed and interrupted him. Everything is predestined. You were fated to inherit Emperor Hades' destiny. Giving it to you is nothing more than following the heavens' will. I've already had enough of this position. It might seem glorious, but to me, it's a kind of restriction. I still have too many things to do. To me, the throne is a restriction. Now that I'm handing it over to you, I can go do what I want. You can say I'm living for myself. Emperor Hades's memories contain all of his bloodline's cultivation techniques. You can choose and comprehend them on your own. Emperor Hades's secondary palace and soul river are both God-given artifacts. The method to use them is also recorded in Emperor Hades's memories. I'm about to embark on a long journey, so I won't be able to protect you in the future. But so long as you focus on comprehending Emperor Hades's title, your cultivation won't be any lower than mine. Remember my words. Help Yi Zichen ascend to transcendence. Don't worry. Emperor Hades's transmission vanished from Su Yun's sea of consciousness like a wisp of smoke. Su Yun nodded vigorously, then bowed deeply to the northwest. He didn't know where his master was, but he bowed simply to express his respect for Emperor Hades. He glanced at Emperor Hades's secondary palace and the Soul River in his hand. Although he didn't dare imagine it, it seemed that he really had become Emperor Hades. The heavy responsibility of guarding the river Styx would fall entirely upon his shoulders. As for helping Yi Zichen ascend to the throne, Su Yun instinctively glanced at Yi Zichen and smiled. They were close friends. Even if Emperor Hades hadn't warned him, he would have done everything in his power to help Yi Zichen ascend to the throne. Chapter 1542. Emperor Hades left. The new Emperor Hades, Su Yun, stood proudly above the 9 heavens. All the beasts bowed their heads, stretching for tens of thousands of kilometers without end. The beasts bowed their heads in submission, and the gods bowed in celebration. Even the patriarchs who'd wanted to rebel against Emperor Hades in the first place, now looked up at Su Yun with fear in their eyes. They didn't dare harbor any more rebellious thoughts. The death of the previous patriarch had been a wake-up call for them. There was a reason why the beasts had been loyal to Emperor Hades for generations. No matter which Emperor Hades it was, he'd always been strong enough to force them to submit. Even the current Su Yun, when he'd inherited Emperor Hades' position, he'd clearly been a diviner. Now, however, he'd grown to a point where even the patriarchs trembled. Even though Su Yun had just ascended to the throne, Su Yun's gaze swept across the dire beast patriarchs. Having lived in the river Styx for so long, he knew that these patriarchs weren't peaceful people. The corpses of the dead patriarchs lay on the ground. He knew that before he'd awakened from his ascension to Emperor Hades' position, these patriarchs had rebelled, but their master had suppressed them. No one could read minds, so they couldn't figure out what the patriarchs were thinking. Especially old antiques like them. They'd long since reached the point where they didn't show their emotions. Even Su Yun, who'd inherited Emperor Hades' position, couldn't tell if they still harbored rebellious thoughts. When they sensed Su Yun's gaze, the patriarchs instinctively lowered their heads. They were a little afraid. At their level, they were naturally courageous. If the person standing in front of them was the God Emperor, they wouldn't even bat an eyelid. But it was Emperor Hades. The beasts had always been under Emperor Hades' control. The previous emperors had left a deep imprint in their hearts. This was a bone-deep fear, which was why all the beasts bowed down to Emperor Hades when he appeared. They couldn't defy him. This fear had long since seeped into their veins. Su Yun could sense their fear, but he still couldn't completely trust them. He withdrew his gaze, and a hint of relief flashed in the eyes of the mighty beasts when he withdrew his gaze. Before long, boom! The river of time, which had collected the artifacts, was once again laid at the intersection of the god race and the demon race. It became the demon race's nightmare and guarded the god race's territory. The temporary imperial residence in the void also fell into the Netherworld River at this time. Everything was exactly the same as when Emperor Hades had been on the throne, but there were also some differences. Yun, congratulations on becoming the Netherworld Emperor. At that moment, Yi Zichen transmitted into Su Yun's sea of consciousness. Let's leave the celebration for later. I'll leave the river Styx to you. We have to hurry to the Fox clan's aid, so we can't stay here any longer. Yi Zichen had always been in a hurry. Ever since news of the Fox Empress appeared in the group chat, Yi Zichen had been worried about the Fox clan's situation. If it weren't for the ferocious beasts blocking their way, and if it weren't for Su Yun's ascension to the throne, he would have led his army to the Fox clan long ago. Su Yen and the others were all in the Fox clan. He couldn't let the Fox clan be in danger for even a second. Su Yun had already succeeded in becoming Emperor Hades. It might have been disadvantageous for him to leave during that period, but now, What happened to the Fox clan? A grave expression flashed across Su Yun's face. He cared a lot about the Fox clan situation. At the end of the day, Su Yen was his little sister. How could he not care about her situation? The members of the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion were already readjusting their formations and preparing for battle. Xianji, the Great Sage, and the others were ready to set off for the Fox clan's territory. 6 hours had already passed since Emperor Hades had succeeded the throne. No one could say for sure what was going on with the Fox clan, who'd sent out a distress signal 6 hours earlier. The demons and Yao don't know what went wrong, so they didn't attack the River Styx. Instead, they suddenly attacked the Fox clan. The Dragon clan, Vermilion Bird clan, and the other Sacred Beast clans should have already gone to their aid, but the Fox Empress still sent out a distress signal in our group chat. It's obvious how dire the situation is. Yi Zichen stared intently at Su Yun. You've only just inherited the throne, so there are still many matters for you to handle. You also need to consolidate your cultivation. You'll be in charge of guarding the River Styx. The situation with the Fox clan is rather tense. We really can't stay here any longer. Let's go. Wait! Suddenly, Su Yun reached out and called out to Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen turned around hesitantly and saw Su Yun narrowed his eyes. He'd called over the River Styx's vicious beast ancestors. Emperor Hades. The ancestors lowered their gazes, not daring to meet his gaze. Su Yun's expression was solemn. I'll leave Emperor Hades in your care. Yun. Yi Zichen glared. He already knew what Su Yun was planning. Su Yun raised his hand at Yi Zichen, then scanned the ancestors' faces intently. Under this gaze, the patriarchs could be said to be quite uncomfortable. I'm leaving the River Styx to you because I trust you. Don't let down this emperor's trust in you. If you do anything after I return, you're already old. It doesn't matter. Think about your descendants. The patriarchs patted the chests of the patriarchs, and they kept smiling apologetically. Only then did Su Yun look away and turn to Yi Zichen. Let's go. I'll go with you. The River Styx. I doubt they dare cause any trouble. Su Yun narrowed his eyes and glanced at the ancestors. They instantly lowered their heads. If they dare take advantage of my absence and let the Yao invade, they'll be exterminated. Vicious beasts were sinful beasts. They'd all committed heinous crimes in the primordial era and had come to Emperor Hades to atone for their sins. As a result, even if Emperor Hades wanted to kill them, he wouldn't feel any pressure. The vicious beasts knew this too, which was why they revered Emperor Hades. When he heard Su Yun's words, Yi Zichen didn't hesitate. Although Su Yun had just inherited Emperor Hades' position, his cultivation was most likely no weaker than Yang Jian and the others. Given his cultivation, he'd undoubtedly be an extremely powerful force. Emperor Hades is going too? When she saw Su Yun and Yi Zichen, she laughed. Before we set off, we need to think about something. We'll have to pass through the Southern Empire's territory on our way to the Fox clan. We can't avoid Yao intercepting us. That's the fastest way. We'll just slaughter our way through, said Su Yun decisively. That's one way, of course, but it'll take up too much time, said Xianji. I trust Emperor Hades doesn't want to waste too much time on the road either. Lady Providence, do you have any good ideas? Asked Su Yun. Chapter 1543. Yi Zichen and the others hadn't sensed the scholar's arrival in the slightest. It wasn't until he landed in front of them that Xianji and the others looked at him, their brows furrowed with hesitation. What was even more noteworthy was that this scholarly young man was truly frail. His figure was so slender that women felt ashamed just looking at him. You're heading to the Fox clan? I can send you there directly. That'll save you the trouble of fighting Yao on your way through the south, said the scholar. Said the scholarly man. Xianji and the others looked him up and down several times. How did you know we were going to the Fox clan? Furthermore, you've covered your face like this. Are you afraid of being recognized and don't want to show your face? Hiding your head and showing your tail? You're definitely not a good person, snorted Suiyun. You must be the newly crowned Emperor Hades. You really do have some of his aura. The scholar chuckled. It's true that I don't want to show my face, but we've known each other for a long time. I knew you were going to the Fox clan, so I hurried over to lend you a hand. What do you mean? Asked Yizichin. Prepare for battle, stranger. The scholar smiled calmly. Everyone in the battle preparation group froze inexplicably. The only stranger in the entire group was Great Emperor Chao Feng. They didn't know his identity, but now he was standing right in front of them. It seems you believe me. If you don't. A notification popped up in their pocket. When they saw that the stranger had sent the message, they realized it had been sent by him. Now we believe you. I wonder if you'll be willing to show your face, asked Xianji. Please don't make things difficult for me. Since I've chosen to come here, I naturally have my reasons. When I can see my true face, I naturally won't hide it anymore, the scholarly young man said. Then, thank you for your trouble, master. Xianji glanced meaningfully at the scholar, then took half a step back. The scholar nodded and smiled. Then, they watched as his slender fingers gently fiddled with the air. Several ripples appeared in the void, each ripple like the waves on a lake. Everyone from the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion stared intently at the sky. Before long, the ripples grew stronger and stronger, until they formed a tornado. Then, a silver door appeared in the sky. This door leads directly to the Fox Clan's main mountain. You may enter. Space Dao Art. Anyone who stood in the air could tell that this was one of the 3,000 Great Dao techniques, the Space Great Dao technique. This person had actually learned such a supreme Great Dao, causing everyone to sigh in admiration. However, everyone present was also hesitant. Before exiting the spatial tunnel, no one knew where the tunnel's entrance would be. The stranger had entered the group abruptly, so they didn't know anything about him. After entering the spatial tunnel, no one could be sure that this person wouldn't do anything. After all, the Emperor's star was still here. Everyone, are you worried that I'll play some tricks? The scholarly young man said with a smile. Please don't blame us, young master, said Xianji. We really don't know you well, so naturally, we can't trust you completely. I understand that. The scholarly young man nodded. My identity and background are indeed worthy of your consideration, but I can't obtain your absolute trust. But you have to trust Great Emperor Chao Feng, right? He was the one who introduced me to you. If you don't trust me, you have to trust Great Emperor Chao Feng, don't you think? Suiyun and Yizichin subconsciously looked at Xianji. They weren't familiar with Emperor Chao Feng. I trust Chao Feng's character, murmured Xianji. Xianji lowered her eyes and murmured. She looked deeply at the scholarly man and said, I thank you for your help. With that, Xianji stepped through the door without hesitation. Yizichin, Suiyun, the great sage, Yang Jian, Pu Jingwan, and the others followed. Next was the vast army of the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion. When the last person entered the spatial tunnel, the scholarly young man smiled. He waved his right hand and the tunnel's exit was sealed. I don't know if what I did was right or wrong. He let out an inexplicable sigh, shook his head, and disappeared into the void. It had to be said that the spatial tunnel he'd created was extremely stable. Even though so many of them had entered at the same time, they didn't feel the slightest sign of collapse. Auntie, is that person really trustworthy? Asked Yizichin. Whether we trust him or not, we're already in the tunnel, said Xianji. Besides, he's right. I trust Great Emperor Chao Feng's character. Since Chao Feng brought her into the group, I don't think we need to be on our guard against him. It's just that he... What, Auntie, did you discover something? Asked Yizichin. She's a woman. Pu Jingwan suddenly stuck her head out. Yizichin and the others looked at her suspiciously. She continued, You can't tell, can you? Don't be fooled by how she dresses and talks like a man, but I'm absolutely sure she's a woman. She really is a woman, said Xianji. Yi Zichen and the others were stunned. After a while, they heard Yang Jian say, "No wonder I thought that scholar's eyes were a bit too clear. No wonder I felt that the scholar's eyes were a little too clear. Those eyes don't look like the eyes of a man. I'm also absolutely sure she's not just a woman. She's incredibly beautiful," said Pu Jingwan. "You can even see that?" Yang Jian's eyes widened and he rubbed his chin. "But if you think about it carefully, it's true. Just those eyes alone are beautiful enough. Especially that body of hers. I think her face isn't too shabby either. Behave yourself. The third princess is still waiting for you at home," said the great sage. "I don't need you to tell me that." Yang Jian rolled his eyes. "Jingwan was the one who brought it up, so I said it. I'm infatuated with the third princess. Do you think I'm a promiscuous person?" Back in the heavenly court, I wonder who it was that hooked up with those fairies every day," said the great sage. "You have the nerve to talk to me like that? Back on Mount Huagua, weren't you with those female monkeys too? Don't spout nonsense. What, did I hit the nail on the head? Are you scared now? You're asking for a beating." No one could tell which of them was telling the truth. However, it looked like the brothers were about to attack again, but Su Yun stopped them in time. This wasn't like the outside world. This was a spatial tunnel. If they fought here and the tunnel collapsed, they'd all die here. However, as the two buffoons bickered, Yi Zichen's gaze grew solemn. "No way. How could it be her? How could she?" Yi Zichen couldn't help but mutter to himself. His heart was filled with disbelief. A woman! Her attainments in the Tao of space were extremely high.